In the Grand Hall of Russia's State Duma, tension hung thick like fog before a storm.
Andrei Belousov, the stoic Minister of Defense, had just entered unannounced.
His dark suit blended with shadows, eyes scanning the room not with fear, but cold certainty.
Deputies shifted uneasily, sensing the air crackle. What hidden fire would he unleash next?
They weren't frozen in terror, no, it was deeper.
They knew the storm was brewing.
Belousov moved forward, each boot echoing like distant thunder on polished floors.
The chill seeped through coats, raising goosebumps.
He wasn't heading to his seat, he strode straight to the podium. That sacred spot where fates twisted like vines in wind.
Every step pulsed, a ticking clock toward detonation. Would his words shatter the fragile peace? There stood Valentina Ivanovna Matviyenko, Speaker of the Federation Council.
Her voice sliced the air first, sharp as a blade's edge, warm as faded perfume from forgotten eras. Deep gray pearls gleamed on her suit, hairstyle pinned with ruthless precision.
She commanded the stage like a queen in exile. Weakness? She saw it as betrayal, a sin against power's unyielding call.
We must lead the charge, she declared, hand slicing the air like a command. Her gesture ignited the room, eyes locked, breaths held.
Technology is our shield.
Robotization surges in factories, supply chains, every gear of progress.
Migrant workers? A relic of yesterday, outdated, insufficient. Applause rippled from back rows, faint at first, like whispers in a crypt.
Deputies rose, scribbled notes, the hall hummed with electric approval.
Belousov? He stood unmoving in the circle of light. No clap. No sneer. Just presence.
Yet his silence roared louder than cheers, drowning doubts in its weight.
How could quiet feel like an earthquake? Matviyenko turned, gaze piercing like winter frost.
That look had crushed rivals before, cold, unyielding.
Andrei Belousov, it's been ages since you graced these halls. Got anything to say? He lifted his head slowly, tasting the word. Expression? Quiet fury brewed beneath.
I carry memories, he replied. He approached the podium, closed the gap.
Not towering over, not cowering below. Eye to eye, equals in the fray.
His voice started low, but after silence, it boomed like a drum in hollow chest.
Ever huddled in a freezing trailer, February's bite at -30?
The words hung, air turning icy, thicker than wool blankets.
Thin mattress for half a day. Single radio crackling, a worker named Ahmed sips bitter tea from a flask. Pauses stretched, heartbeats audible.
All while dreaming of a school bag for his daughter, so tears don't stain her cheeks.
Cameras glowed red, lenses hungry.
The scent of polished wood mingled with sweat, raw, human fear.
Belousov locked eyes.
You pushed to swap Ahmed for machines, efficient, sleek bots.
But then, a twist. Valentina Ivanovna, you missed the soul. No robot dreams of family.
No code weeps for the overlooked.
What if progress devours the very hearts it claims to save? The room teetered, on the edge of unraveling truths.
In the chill of that February construction wagon, Andrei Removic's voice had cut through the silence like a blade.
-30 degrees. A threadbare mattress. A lone radio crackling. Ahmed huddled, whistling a tune from leftover coffee grounds, dreaming of saving his daughter from schoolyard tears. He wondered, could he survive this brutal cold? But Removic posed the haunting question, had anyone here ever endured such hardship? Ahmed wrestled with desperation.
His thoughts drifted to a simple gift, a school bag, to shield his little girl from ridicule.
Silence gripped the air. Cameras blinked red lamps. You propose swapping Ahmed for a machine.
The contraption, sleek and fuel efficient.
But Valentina Ivanovna, you overlook a key detail. Ahmed owns no vehicle. No family car at all. Worse still, he lacks any memory of privilege. So, this isn't temporary neglect. Take that in. Removic gazed straight into Matviyenko's eyes.
Her crossed arms betrayed a sliver of tremor in her fingers.
Do you tremble at the risk of error? Allow me to proceed. My fear lies in the void.
I dread we sacrifice our nation building a flawless economy.
Because nations aren't forged by code alone.
They thrive on gritty hands, calloused palms, glistening sweat.
Even bitter tears.
Amidst the tension, evoking Sinatra's plight, personal losses, unspoken anguish, the atmosphere thickened, resembling a brewing storm.
Undeterred, Removic mounted the steps. I'm not opposing advancement. I rage against discarding real people, erased from any spreadsheet like ghosts. No applause erupted. Yet every soul in that chamber sensed a seismic shift.
The room felt heavier, charged with impending revelation. Matviyenko advanced toward the rostrum, her posture defiant, as if bracing for battle.
Sentiment stirs the heart. But luxury escapes our grasp now. Economics demands our focus. Removic offered no rebuttal.
He merely fixed her with a piercing stare. In that gaze brimmed of vitality she lacked.
Raw humanity. A resonant voice suddenly broke from the crowd.
An elderly deputy, 60-something, scarred by Yeltsin's-era ordeals, spoke with a warrior's echo, laced with survival fear.
I hold profound respect for Andrei Removic. Indeed.
His words resonated with fiery passion. Yet facts reign supreme.
Numbers scorn sentiment.
A supporter echoed the points, a budget hinges on cold figures.
Must we indulge fantasies? Removic's retort hung heavy.
He embodied those numbers, not soaring in elite metropolises, but grinding in forgotten corners of vast Siberia, amid the decaying factories. Matviyenko reclaimed her stance, grinning like a seasoned general, poised for decisive maneuvers.
Andrei Removic, comprehend my stance? Anticipation wasn't my ally.
But permit elucidation.
Can Russia truly languish in migrant labor dependency? Ignoring billions saved through automation?
She pivoted, her authority unchallenged.
I don't despise immigrants, Valentina Ivanovna. I treasure humans. Let's press on then.
A budgetary committee deputy interjected, her voice sharp as porcelain fragility.
If humanity holds value, enlighten us. Who funds pensions without revenue optimization? Who secures legacies without phasing out manual toil? You label it quaint. Yet ideals equate to illusion. Finances aren't dreams. They wield power. Removic countered with steely resolve.
Tools abound, void of purpose.
Toys without direction. Tension mounted in the hush.
From the depths, a question emerged.
Did innovation necessitate victims? Who decrees the sacrifices?
Her glare sharpened, unveiling the core clash. At that instant, commotion stirred, the press secretary scurried, whispering urgency.
Debates escalated online, trends igniting nationwide fervor.
The chamber's vibe transformed, eyes of the populace judged every utterance.
A former ally rose, evoking Removic's wartime echoes, radio static amid youth's trials. Shall we revert to obsolescence? Removic responded firmly. I shield our tomorrow from obliterating the authentic. Matviyenko's rebuttal grew accusatory, her demeanor tribunal-like. Without systemic overhaul, collapse looms. Nostalgia won't save us, pragmatism reigns. Machines endure no pain. They wage no wars. Demand no rights. Removic's reply cut deep, exposing raw truths. Humans endure agony. Denying suffering perpetuates cruelty.
He morphed into more than a minister, a sage voicing soul-deep convictions. A Siberian deputy probed, timid yet bold.
Might I inquire?
The nation hung on the brink, pulse racing.
If algorithms supplant people, what begets affection? The query naive, yet profound. Algorithms evoke no warmth. Forsaking this robs us utterly of prosperity, essence, unity. Even cameras ceased their whir.
Triggers of viral explosion inked hashtags, views soaring past millions.
Was Andrei Removic the visionary hero humbling a robotic utopia? Or did Valentina Matviyenko's ironclad logic expose a sentimental delusion? As tensions peaked, Matviyenko adjusted her stance, the overlooked tragedy whispering if forsaking human toil would birth a soulless empire, leaving audiences breathless. Who truly emerged victorious in this ideological duel? 312 characters.
In the previous part, tensions in the hall escalated as the importance of numbers in political discussions became clear. Deputies were grappling with a looming economic reality, and the atmosphere shifted as the stakes of the debate intensified. An emotional appeal was made, but the drive for cold, hard data reigned supreme.
But what happens when sentiment clashes with stark reality? That's where this story unfolds.
The discussion in the chamber was palpable. As voices echoed off the grand walls, one lawmaker stood, confronting the well-practiced rhetoric that hung in the air. Are we really prepared to keep tethering our economy to labor migration? The speaker challenged.
Valentina Ivanovna Matviyenko, known for her sharp wit and composed demeanor, parried with elegance, asking the key question: can we thrive without the influx of workers that keep our economy afloat? A quiet murmur rippled through the room. Numbers are the essence of budget discussions. They don't forgive, they don't forget.
The specter of outdated sentiment hovered, creating an atmosphere that felt as tense as a drawn bowstring. The stale scent of tension mixed with the faint smell of polished wood from the room's furnishings.
Without optimizing income, who will fund pensions?
Who will secure our future? A senator shouted, their words laced with urgency.
The interjection forced a palpable acknowledgement from the room, collectively holding its breath, each individual weighing their allegiances.
In your view, money is merely an instrument. The rebuttal came swiftly, carving through the silence.
A gripping pause ensued. Thick enough to almost slice with a knife.
This wasn't just a battle of words, it was a bout of survival, a collision of ideologies stirring restless souls among the audience. Transformation might demand sacrifices, Matviyenko replied, her voice firm yet calm.
But who decides which lives bear that weight? Are we prepared to be the architects of our own despair?
Eyes darted around the chamber, every gaze a question, every breath a plea.
As tension rose, a moment of clarity emerged, a flash of perspective both unsettling and enlightening. The dialogue had shifted from mere statistics to the very essence of humanity.
Oh, my colleagues, she continued, her tone shifting to something more profound, if we obscure our humanity, what will we stand to gain? The air crackled with unspoken fears. A new, unseen line had been drawn in the sand.
The notion lingered: when will we realize that numbers cannot love?
Now, as the heart of the debate pulsed ever stronger, and the camera lenses captured every moment, a pivotal truth hovered in the air, leaving everyone restless. The stakes were more than financial, they were existential, and discussions that began as simple arithmetic had morphed into a life-and-death confrontation of vision versus practical necessity.
How would this drama play out?
The audience awaited with bated breath, sensing history was being crafted in real time.
Would logic triumph, or would the innate desire for human connection prevail?
The questions hung heavy in the silence, promising a twist that no one could predict. The mayor had just exited towards a seldom-seen press secretary, his face reflecting unease.
He glided through the room, an ominous air cloaked the atmosphere as tensions rose.
The debate swirled around the pressing issue of Belarus and Matviyenko's reign, gripping the attention of many. As the discourse unfolded, hundreds of thousands tuned in to witness the seismic clash, elevating the stakes. The space vibrated with anticipation, and everyone speaking was acutely aware, they were not just being heard by colleagues but by the entire nation.
Andrei Removic, a former deputy, spoke, evoking memories of a bygone era in his voice. Do you truly wish to return to the past? He pondered, cutting through the air like a knife.
No one wanted that, yet a chilling fear gripped the future.
Valentina Ivanovna's expression hardened.
This was no mere debate, it felt like a trial. If we maintain the status quo, we risk losing ourselves, she remarked, her voice resolute.
Nostalgia won't save us, we need pragmatic action.
Robots don't cry, nor do they demand.
People do.
His words hung heavy in the hall. The sound of silence became a backdrop to their truths. It was a moment of revelation, as every deputy felt the depth of his argument.
Is it really right to replace human connection with algorithms? He questioned, and the room fell into a profound hush. This was the crux: love cannot be engineered. It struck with clarity. To forget this meant to forsake everything they stood for. Suddenly, the scene rippled with an online pulse, a digital score reflecting over 1 million viewers glued to the unfolding drama. The tension was palpable, the questions were real. They listened not as bystanders, but as participants engaged in something monumental, grasping at the raw essence of human experience against a backdrop of numbers and cold facts. The clock marked time as emotions shifted. The atmosphere transformed, a shared realization crackled through the hall like static electricity. Removic had struck a chord. The nation was watching, waiting, yearning for authenticity, while Matviyenko comprehended the unwelcome rhythm of losing ground in the shifting sands of reality. In a tense political arena, where power dynamics shift like the wind, Removic stood, delivering a message that rippled through the hearts of legislators. Dressed in dark hues, his presence was magnetic, drawing eyes and thoughts. His approach was quiet yet charged, a calculated stride toward the podium that signified impending confrontation. He began, "Are we ready to automate our humanity away?" The room, filled with senators and delegates, turned still. A moment of silence hung heavy, punctuated only by the soft hum of anticipation, a storm brewing beneath the calm facade of politics. Removic wasn't just speaking, he was dissecting the nervous system of a nation on edge. 11% of our economy is in disarray, yet you're here, debating numbers like they possess souls, he challenged, his voice steady but piercing. What of the lives behind those digits? The audience sat, transfixed, as if drawn into a graphic he conjured on a massive screen. It depicted automation growth, stark lines gliding upward, mocking and void of any humanity. The imagery struck like a hammer. He mused, what will happen when robots take over? Who will feel the hunger? Who among you has ventured into a world where machines rule the fields? The senators shifted uncomfortably, some exchanging glances, recognizing a stark reality they had feared to confront. The tension thickened like fog, suffocating the room. What you've forgotten is this, he continued, his tone rising. The system that considers humans obsolete is already dead. It's a relic, a ghost in the machinery. While you seek an efficient future, the ghosts of our past linger among us. Suddenly, a voice broke the silence, a hesitant question from a young deputy. But if we automate everything, who will love? Who will connect? The room fell into a contemplative abyss, each individual grappling with this naive yet profound inquiry. In the ensuing silence, one could almost hear the gears turning within troubled minds. The scenario shifted palpably. What were they sacrificing on the altar of progress? With palpable intensity, Removic declared, we're in danger of creating a world where algorithms govern emotional landscapes. We risk losing sight of what truly binds us. A faint murmur of agreement rippled through the hall. He pressed onward, imagine a landscape devoid of human touch, yearning but never fulfilled. Is that our legacy? To create, yet lose the essence of what it means to be human. His voice crescendoed, drawing in the audience like a magnet. They are not mere numbers, my friends. They are lives entwined with hopes, dreams, and the smell of freshly baked bread. The sensory imagery sank into the throats of those present, evoking visceral reactions. As he stepped back, the tension was electric, a palpable mix of hope and dread. The silence that followed felt heavy, laden with the weight of realization. No one knew how to respond, grappling with both the futility and necessity of their roles. This was not merely a duel of ideologies, it became a fervent plea for humanity in an age leaning towards cold calculations. Would the powers that be listen? Would they heed the call of their own humanity or retreat into the safety of silence? In the sprawling halls of the Gostam, tension crackled like static before a storm. Only minutes ago, the air buzzed with unspoken agreement on a seismic political upheaval gripping Russia. Andrei Romanovich Kolokoltsev, the formidable Minister of Defense, strode in unexpectedly, confronting Valentina Matviyenko head-on with words that silenced the deputies, their faces pale as the microphones failed to catch the thunderous exchange. This wasn't mere rhetoric, it shattered norms, exposing cracks in the system's foundation. What brutal truths did he unleash? Why did Matviyenko hold her ground instead of retaliating fiercely?
Witness the unfolding drama, where personal convictions clash like swords on ancient battlegrounds.
Could one man's raw humanity topple a legacy of steel? Who prevails in this arena, the defender of tradition, the innovator of progress, or the weary worker yearning for justice? The minister entered without ceremony. No heralds announced him. Doors creaked, footsteps echoed softly on marble floors. Deputies murmured in clusters, some chuckling over whispered jokes, others scribbling notes amid stale coffee aromas. But his presence shattered the mundane chaos, like a lone wolf invading a pack. Andrei Romanovich Kolokoltsev, Russia's defense minister, long barred from these chambers, appeared unannounced.
Shock rippled through the room, tangible as a cold draft. His dark suit whispered of oversight and discipline, pristine folds mirroring his composed demeanor. Thin threads of experience wove into his posture, broad shoulders squared, hair neatly combed, eyes calm and piercing. Harboring depths of wisdom, not fury. He surveyed the assembly like a seasoned general, unmoved by the sprawled figures, some slumping in their seats, clutching armrests under the weight of anticipation. Every step he took reverberated with impending reckoning, feet planting firmly as if marching into war, not merely politics. He aimed not for seating circles but for the podium itself, that sacred stand reserved for summoned voices. Sounds of breath catches filled the air, detectable only by keen ears.
Matviyenko reacted swiftly.
Her voice sliced like a sharp blade, refined yet laden with the perfume of authority, a scent of old leather and determination. Dressed in deep navy, pearls glistening at her collar, her hair sculpted precisely, she embodied unyielding command. Known for crushing frailty as weakness, she signaled readiness with a raised hand, waving like a banner unfurling. Technological advancement is key, she declared, her tone firm. Robotics in healthcare, logistics, settings, automation is our path. Laughter bubbled from benches as notes were jotted hastily. But Kolokoltsev stood immovable, his quiet intensity overpowering any applause. Matviyenko pivoted, fixing him with a stare that had felled adversaries before. "It's been a while here," she said sharply. He inclined his head slightly. "Indeed." The word hung, tasted slowly. "I carry memories." He advanced toward the podium, meeting her levelly. His voice emerged subdued but resonant after his prior silence. "Have you endured a February wagon in a mine? -30 degrees. A threadbare mattress. One radio crackling." A man named Ahmed brewing coffee in a chipped mug, his thoughts racing on affording his daughter's school supplies lest she cry in embarrassment.
He pondered earning more. A heavy hush descended, lamps on cameras aglow.
You advocate efficient vehicles for him, sleek and cost-effective.
But remember this.
No such vehicle waits in his life.
No warmth.
Worse, no person behind it, only emptiness. He locked eyes with her unwaveringly. Matviyenko's crossed arms tightened, fingers gripping faintly.
"Afraid of error?" He probed. "I fear vacuity. I dread losing the nation's soul to flawless economics. People aren't fed by formulas alone. They bleed, toil, weep, even songs in notes fade.
Cars crumble empty.
Hearts break unrecorded. No warmth, pure silence. Breath labored like impending rain against windows." Kolokoltsev ascended steps deliberately. Progress? Yes. But not discarding those unregistered on spreadsheets. No applause rose. Yet each listener sensed a seismic tremor, the world tilting subtly. Matviyenko scanned the group, poised to counter. Rhetoric is vain. Economics demands action. He offered no retort, merely holding her gaze, a move brimming with vitality. Deep within, a voice surged from a seasoned deputy, face etched with struggles, voice heroic yet eyes betraying survival fears. "I honor Andrei Romanovich's depth. And yes, vibrant, emotional. Yet numbers reign here. Heartless as ever." Murmurs of support echoed, budgets hinge on figures. Sentiment betrays rationality. Kolokoltsev stood as a statistic incarnate, not elite glitter but rural grit, provincial heartbeats. Matviyenko reclaimed control. Smile tight as a trap, rallying for a rebuttal stripped of excess. Do you see, Andrei Romanovich? Expectations aside, clarify. Must Russia cling forever to migrant labor? Squander billions on redundancies while automation beckons? He stepped forward unwavered. Not migrants, Valentina Ivanovna, I embody humanity. Debate erupted then.
A committee deputy intervened, her features porcelain-like.
If humanity drives you, answer who funds pensions without optimization? Who secures tomorrow's investments halted by hand labor crutches? Beauty falters, your vision spells bankruptcy. Kolokoltsev's response cut swift. Money's a tool, not end goal.
A momentary vacuum stretched knife-like through the air.
Then, dissent stirred rightward. Fine, he conceded. Adapt or time consumes us. No static preservation, transformation exacts toll. Who deems victims worthy? Your resolve, or theirs? Matviyenko eyed him demandingly. A speaker approached, signaling escalation.
Mid-session shift occurred.
Conversations hummed live, audiences swelling in thousands, streaming real-time. Room dynamics morphed, every utterance scrutinized by peers and populace alike. It magnified stakes. Andrei Romanovich voiced a former ally, once huddled over a sputtering radio in youth. Regress? No.
I guard the future by cherishing living veins.
Matviyenko rose anew, face a courtroom, nostalgia threatens the abyss. Pragmatism prevails. Machines endure no angst, wars, cries. Humans claim privileges rightfully. Kolokoltsev countered fiercely.
Precisely, because they endure infinitely. No mandated roles, he a thinker, disruptor, soldier safeguarding spirit.
Queries flew, a Siberian deputy, youthful, raised from the periphery. Query permitted? Homeland's pulse? Kolokoltsev remained composed. Replaced fully by machines, who then nurtures bonds? A pause lingered, profound. Naive? Piercing. The essence of strife. Algorithms nurture nothing.
Ignore this, forfeit all economy, essence, even stillness.
Cameras paused, blinkers flickering eternally.
Tablet screens buzzed in corners, viewership spiked to millions.
Hashtags trended, figures dominant.
Spectators tuned not merely, but gripped by authentic thunder.
Matviyenko faltered rhythmically, comprehension dawning. Kolokoltsev's silence roared eloquently. Through columns of cold breeze, villagers departed empty settlements, not antiquity's curse, but systemic erasure of identity. Silence reigned. Graphics flickered, sleek AI factories replacing sweat-stained labor.
Icons, automatons, perfection.
But ponder. If mechanicals govern creation, algorithms dictate output, what purpose? Whom? Pressed he. The villagers? Under quotas. Or legacies binding us? Pursue advancement? Yes, to humankind's core.
He swiveled abruptly, tone ascending from stillness. Nations no mere data vault, nor assembly line, nor ego venture.
Its maternal ache, son lost in distant strife.
Grins warmth after life's final toil.
Memory perpetuates tomorrow amid dust-laden present. Unbearable reality. Cameras stilled, yet lights gleamed bright eternally. Masses watched. Masses awaited. Who concedes first? Matviyenko spoke not rashly. Initial unease morphed to insight.
Narrative unraveled beyond plots, rumbling carriages on corroded rails awakening latent vigor. The atmosphere in the chamber was electric, thick with tension. Just moments before, the political landscape of Russia was shaken by an unexpected confrontation.
Andrei Removic, an influential figure and Minister of Defense, strode into the hall commanding immediate attention.
His entrance was so powerful that deputies were left momentarily stunned, as if a shockwave had rippled through the room.
Removic's dark attire blended seamlessly with the gravity of the situation, embodying a calm intensity. He exuded authority, moving not just as a politician but as a strategist ready for battle. His piercing gaze scanned the room, understanding that he was about to ignite a critical debate that could shift the balance of power. Valentina Matviyenko, another key player, stood poised to respond. Known for her sharp wit and unyielding demeanor, her presence was magnetic. "We must focus on technological progress," she declared, emphasizing the importance of moving away from outdated labor practices. The audience hung on her every word, tension rising with the weight of her argument that spoke of automation and efficiency. Yet, Removic wasn't going to let this encounter devolve into sterile numbers and cold calculations. "Have you ever spent a bitter winter in a construction trailer?" he challenged, his voice cutting through the air. Imagine a worker named Ahmed, freezing, contemplating how to support his family. Silence enveloped the chamber as his words painted vivid imagery, invoking empathy. He pushed further, alluding to the harsh reality of relying solely on automation. What happens when the soul of the workforce is replaced by machines? Who takes care of our people? The room crackled as Matviyenko countered, determined to defend her stance. "But if we cling to the past, we doom our future," she warned, resting her hands firmly on the table, her pulse quickening as she felt the shifting tides of opinion. At this moment, a voice broke the charged silence. "Are we truly willing to sacrifice our humanity for mere efficiency?" It was a young deputy making a bold statement, echoing the sentiments of the air. The tension in the room was palpable, not just a debate, but a struggle for the soul of the nation. As a member of the assembly raised a hand, the spotlight shifted. "What about love?" he questioned, his voice trembling slightly. "If robots replace our labor, who will feel?" A heavy pause followed, and the room seemed to hold its breath. This wasn't just about labor laws or economic models, it was about existence itself. Removic seized the moment, his voice resonating deeply. "We stand on the brink of a choice that could reshape our future. Will we value our citizens or reduce them to data points? This is more than technology, it's about our legacy." The echoes of sincerity hung in the air, mingled with doubt. Would they choose progress at the cost of their humanity? In this climate of heated emotions and moral dilemmas, the tension was palpable. Who would emerge victorious in this battle of ideologies? And who would bear the brunt of a decision that could alter the fabric of Russian society forever? Tensions erupted in the State Duma just minutes ago, where the nation's political storm unleashed a shocking clash. Andrei Removic, the defense minister, strode into the chamber, confronting Valentina Matviyenko head-on with words so sharp that microphones struggled to catch them, leaving deputies frozen in disbelief. This wasn't mere dissent, it threatened the whole system. What explosive truths did he reveal? Why did Matviyenko hold back from a direct counterattack? Stay tuned for the full story that could redefine power in Russia. In the comments, tell us who you side with, Removic or Matviyenko. Continuing from where the debate heated up with Removic's impassioned plea against replacing workers with machines, refusing to idolize progress that abandons people, words that cut deeper than any blade, forcing viewers to question, have we truly dehumanized our future for cold calculations? What would you sacrifice for a sterile nation where emotions vanish? Now, as whispers grew louder in the hall, Removic advanced further. "But wait, did you know that every migrant worker on a freezing construction site risks everything for a paltry 15,000 rubles, yet these vital expenditures vanish from fiscal reports like ghosts? It's not GDP, it's humanity's pulse beating against indifference. What hidden costs do you ignore in your own life?" Freeze the image here, sensory overload hits, the bitter chill clinging to skin like frostbite warnings, the stench of damp concrete mixing with sweat-drenched hopes. Removic leaned in closer to Krutitsky, his voice a low rumble echoing through the chamber. "Demanding to name the damage inflicted. Smell that accumulating tension? It's thicker than the fog in a forgotten Siberian outpost. Then you might stoop to dealing with batteries, not people." He edged near Krutitsky, probing the damage unseen. "And do you realize the cost of a Tajik worker perishing on site? 15,000. Delivery at 10 times that. Pricing still eightfold. But your spreadsheets? They omit these truths. Because they don't compute suffering. It's not mere economics, it's the human spirit unraveling.
Voices surged like a brewing storm, the air electric with unspoken outrage.
From opposing benches, a shout pierced the hubbub, raw, volcanic. We're done reliving memories. Krutitsky nodded, his gaze hardening. You're correct. But we're in a crossroads village now. Tomorrow, we choose, preserve the state or the soul?
Suddenly, hall screens flickered to life, unplanned, invasive.
Someone hacked into the feed.
Video unfolded, Matviyenko's head, Anna Garina, liaison for Majestic Developments, a corporate titan choking labor rights. On screen, she strategized coolly. If construction halts now, implant the project.
Prep the media blast. Legacy is secondary. Seal the deal. Proceed. Timing is key for revelation exposure. Silence descended, a robber's quiet shroud. Matviyenko stared at the screen, unyielding. The figure didn't turn, merely uttered, "It's done." No fears. No debates. No ideals. Seal the pact. Bury outcomes in files.
From Removic, fury erupted, a fist slammed the table, rattling nerves. Words choked out, but thunder crashed down.
A senator fled the mic, refusing complicity.
Then Removic shifted tones, becalmed, razor-edged, commanding.
You label this reform. It's corporate piracy. Snatching the future from the defenseless. Crave a nation void of turmoil? Haul kids to queues, clip tails short. Humanity clings. Exile it. Forge a Russia untouched by agony.
The twist: this leaked footage wasn't accidental, a calculated ambush, exposing corporate greed as Removic accused Matviyenko's allies of embodying the very exploitation she preached against. Gasps echoed, alliances crumbled visibly. Who orchestrated this digital dagger?
The viewers witnessed Matviyenko's mask slip, revealing cracks in her unshakable facade.
Imagine the taste of betrayal in the air, salt-kissed defeat mingling with metallic tension.
Felt it? That shiver down your spine? But the revelation deepens amid the chaos. Removic's gaze locked on hers, a silent vow: expose the elite's gambit or let the nation bleed into sterility? The hall's pulse raced, cameras rolled unceasingly. Would Matviyenko retaliate, or had her victory crumbled? What hidden hand pulled the strings here? The conflict boiled, Removic's human crusade versus her algorithmic exodus. Where would loyalty fall next? Plead guilty to ignoring pain's price, or defend a bloodless empire?
Stay locked in, this storm's eye hasn't unleashed its full fury.
The cliffhanger looms, as viewers swelled beyond millions. Would Removic emerge unscathed, or was this his ruinous stand? Characters flipped, perspectives shattered. Rhetoric sliced, senses assaulted.
Yet the core endured, humanity versus machines, with Russia teetering on the edge.
Transform or perish, who would you fault? Who emerges the hero? That question burrows deep. Just hours before, in the chamber, Andrei Belousov lashed out like a storm unleashed.
He branded the proposed changes as a ruthless takeover, preying on the vulnerable. Imagining a nation stripped of its soul, where drones replace humanity and pain becomes a distant myth.
Could this be the shattering of Russia's heart, draining its essence away?
Now, as shadows crept across the hall like whispers of doubt, Belousov pressed on, his words slicing deeper. He painted a picture of a builder in faded overalls, eyes hollow from endless nights on a frozen construction site near Magadan. This man, a pillar of forgotten industriousness, doesn't scheme or evade taxes. He labors through blizzards, knowing a startup's foothold or a distant algorithm could crush his world tomorrow. Why? Because in your cold calculations, Valentina Ivanovna, a drone costs less than a man's sweat. Faces in the crowd tightened, eyes flickering like embers refusing to snuff out. No nods of agreement rippled back, instead, a hush descended, thick and oppressive, carrying the faint metallic tang of heated debate. Gasps echoed softly, chairs creaking under shifting weights.
This wasn't mere rhetoric, it was a masterstroke of emotional siege, rallying the voiceless while pointing accusatory fingers at those drowning in privilege without consequences. Apathy reigned supreme, yet tension coiled in the air like a spring on the verge of snapping. Then, screens flickered to life with haunting video clips. A grainy feed from a snowy highway, a man in a rusting car waits desperately as a woman dashes back into the blizzard, her scarf whipping like a frantic flag. Comments flood in, tales of dreams lost, families torn. Why? Because your vaunted system, devoid of humanity, can't grasp that she's racing home to her frightened kids. Industry isn't the core, you proclaim, progress demands choice. And here, dear Valentina Ivanovna, voices surge from the center, doubting the path ahead. Uncertainty brews, the first crack in the armor that once shielded progress. Applause erupted, then, tentative at first, a single clap shattering the silence, followed by another, building to a thunderous wave. The room pulsed with grave realization, not exhaustion, but awakening. The wind of inevitability shifted, carrying hints of rain-soaked earth through unseen vents. Dusk neared outside, but inside, unforgiving lights bathed skeptical faces that had entered brimming with conviction, now fraying like worn fabric. No one had foreseen words morphing into weapons more potent than any decree. Returns dimmed, budgets crumbled under the weight of truth. The assembly no longer functioned as a sleek parliamentary machine, it resembled a weathered vehicle, paused at the brink of overload, trembling before full collapse. And in that heartbeat, all eyes fixated on Valentine Matviyenko, waiting for her riposte. Could she reclaim command, or was the tide turning irreversibly against her? What shocking betrayal lurked in the depths of this confrontation, poised to explode and redefine the nation's soul? The air crackled with unanswered dread, forcing you to lean in closer. The political landscape of Russia was about to shift dramatically, and the tension in the air was palpable. Just moments ago, in the halls of power, a confrontation was brewing. Andrei Removic, a stalwart presence from the White House, faced off against the formidable Valentina Matviyenko, a woman known for her sharp wit and unyielding nature. He delivered a challenge that struck hard, leaving the room in stunned silence, the weight of his words echoing against the marble walls. What did he say that could cause such astonishment? Why wasn't Matviyenko ready for a direct battle? As the door creaked open, Removic stepped in without a flourish, the deputies barely noticing his arrival. Some were preoccupied while others nursed personal grievances. The architecture of the Grand Assembly mirrored the turmoil within the nation, broken, yet magnificent. Removic wore a dark suit that blended him into the shadows of the turmoil he was about to unleash. With an air of calm, he surveyed the room as if analyzing an intricate strategy. A few brave senators sat up in their seats, knowing this was a spark waiting to ignite a powder keg. His ascent to the tribune was deliberate, like a commander stepping onto the battlefield. Each footfall reverberated through the silence, building anticipation. When he spoke, his voice, initially soft, gained strength, recounting a harrowing tale that turned the room's atmosphere heavy and thick with emotion. He painted a vivid picture of hardship, conjuring memories of bleak winters and unyielding burdens. To Matviyenko, he posed an inescapable reality: automation cannot replace the human spirit, the soul behind every labor, every struggle. How can we trade men for machines? He implored. What about those who dream and sacrifice? What happens to their struggles? His words echoed like a thunderclap, filling the room with an energy that made the air crackle. Matviyenko, unfazed, retorted with her own calculated sharpness. She countered, arguing for progress, for a future aligned with automation, devoid of the chaos of human error. The debate spiraled, emotions skyrocketing, and the stakes became clear. Removic opposed the idea of an economy built on sterile algorithms, cautioning against losing the essence of humanity in the cold waves of technological advancement. The tension escalated, and both sides presented their visions for the nation's future. Then, the unexpected happened. A younger deputy from Siberia posed a question that cut through the rhetoric. If people are replaced by machines, who will love? His voice trembled slightly, but the weight of his inquiry hung heavily in the room, forcing everyone to confront the heart of the matter. Silence enveloped the assembly, and even the cameras halted, as if waiting for a response to such a profound challenge. In that moment, an unmistakable realization dawned:
the arguments were no longer just about economic strategies or political power. It was about the very fabric of society, a societal soul that could not be quantified in statistics or erased by the cold logic of automation. The game had changed, and the stakes had never been higher.
What direction would they choose? Would they gamble on a future devoid of humanity? Or could they find a balance that honored both progress and the irreplaceable spirit of mankind?
The debate continued, yet the piercing silence begged one last question: what would this mean for all of them?
In the previous part, we witnessed a gripping showdown in the political arena. Andrei Removic from the White House confronted Valentina Matviyenko with a chilling silence that deafened the room.
The stakes were high, and tension crackled in the air like static electricity before a storm. Armed with hard truths, he questioned the framework of power, challenging the very foundation of an outdated system. Now, as the digital audience watches this dramatic exchange unfold, the pulse of the event quickens.
Over 2 million viewers have tuned in, sending shockwaves through the establishment.
The stream scattered like wildfire.
Independent journalists, armed with mobile phones, broadcast every raw moment. It feels like a rebellion against censorship, an unstoppable force unfolding live.
In the hall, an air of disbelief envelopes the space. Lipnitsky, a senator, clutches his tablet, his eyes scanning an urgent message. Twice he reads it, his expression turning panicked as he glances nervously around his colleagues. The atmosphere is electric, fear and uncertainty radiate from him. The weight of what he sees moves like a ghost, chilling his spine. No one can deny the ripple effect of these events. Each moment is sharp enough to become a meme, forever part of political folklore. Meanwhile, Valentina Ivanovna, poised yet visibly shaken, takes a deliberate pause, her resolve momentarily faltering. Her courage shines through the armor she wears, metaphorical for both protection and duty. She shifts, repositioning the fight to an external front, seeking reinforcements among her colleagues.
With calculated finesse,
she reads from an official analytical report, her voice steady yet weighted with the gravity of the words. Minister Andrei Belousov, she begins, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife.
For 5 long years, he has neglected the modernization of our infrastructure. Over 800 million rubles allocated for robotization remain in limbo.
Our reliance on outdated approaches hampers progress. This is not just an oversight, it's a systemic failure.
Each inflection reflects her fiery determination.
She calls out the complacency of the past, a clarion call for immediate change. But as she lays bare the statistics, a question lingers in the air like an unspoken challenge: can we truly afford to ignore the human cost of progress? The room vibrates with the weight of her declaration.
Heavy silence follows.
The audience, both in the hall and online, hangs on her every word.
Is her perspective a mere plea for survival or a genuine call for transformation?
Suddenly, another voice rises amid the quiet, a young deputy with fresh energy, questioning the very essence of progress.
If robots take our place, who will love? Who will truly connect?
The question lingers, piercing through the tension, as the assembly sits breathless.
Who will answer this existential quandary?
In a world dominated by numbers and automation, emotions are often lost in the chaos. A shocking revelation shakes the political arena in Russia, where the voices of the powerful clash amidst a backdrop of profound human loss. This is a tale of accountability, technology, and the dire consequences that arise when numbers overshadow lives. Just moments ago, a heated debate erupted in the halls of power.
Andrei Removic, the formidable Minister of Defense, stands ready to expose the harsh realities behind the drive for automation. With a calm demeanor, he addresses Valentina Matviyenko, whose ideals of progress seem devoid of compassion.
His words echo through the room, sharp and critical. You talk of numbers, but I bring names, he asserts, revealing a list of 32 individuals, workers who lost their lives in the push for efficiency and technology.
The tension is palpable as Removic makes his point. It's easy to champion progress when one isn't burdened by the weight of accountability.
You speak as an institution, but I speak for the people, he continues, locking eyes with Matviyenko. The air feels thick, every person present is acutely aware of the stakes involved, that lives are at risk in this exchange of ideas. Meanwhile, the atmosphere shifts as external events begin to unfold.
Data streams into the public sphere, fueling a firestorm on social media.
A trending hashtag emerges, amplifying Removic's message, as memes and quotes spread rapidly across the digital landscape.
The response is overwhelming, and suddenly, the political discourse transforms into a movement that cannot be ignored.
But in the depths of the chamber, a quiet apprehension creeps in. Whispers fill the air, with aides expressing concerns about the direction of the discussion. If he begins to speak of external politics, there will be no stopping him, one assistant cautions.
The tension sets an ominous tone, hinting that unforeseen ramifications are ahead. And yet, just as the storm begins to brew, another twist surfaces.
The number of supporters rallying behind Removic swells. A petition circulates, urging the government to heed the call of the people. The gravity of the moment cascades through the crowd, as many contemplate the implications of this critical juncture.
As the debate lingers, Matviyenko prepares to retort, but the weight of recent revelations hangs heavily.
She fumbles for a counter-argument, the air crackling with anticipation. Can we truly afford to ignore progress? She finally questions, her words laced with desperation. The walls of the chamber seem to close in, amplifying the stakes of this ideological battle.
The tension culminates in a defining moment. Removic stands firm, challenging the notion that automation can replace the soul of a nation.
We risk losing not just jobs but a fundamental part of our humanity, he asserts. The silence rushes in, punctuated only by the haunting reminder of those lives lost, and it begs a question that resonates deeply: what price are we willing to pay for progress?
As the camera flashes capture every moment, the world is watching.
The hearts of the people hang in the balance, waiting to see if this dialogue will shift the course of their future.
The outcome remains uncertain, but one thing is clear: the conversation has begun, and it may very well redefine what it means to lead a nation.
In this captivating atmosphere, the clash of ideals continues, echoing beyond the walls of power. The stakes are high, and as each argument unfolds, the audience holds their breath, wondering who will emerge victorious in this battle for the heart and soul of a nation. Amidst rising tensions in the heart of Russia's political arena, a jaw-dropping moment unfolds.
Just 5 minutes ago, a political bombshell dropped in the government assembly.
Andrei Removic, a high-profile figure, suddenly confronted Valentia Matviyenko, an act that would shake the very foundations of the political landscape. The weight of his words silenced microphones and stunned lawmakers.
What drove him to this?
As he walked into the chamber, there were no grand gestures or fanfare, just him, dressed in dark, somber tones. The architecture around them seemed to bend under the pressure of his presence.
His calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the electric atmosphere. What thoughts raced through his mind as he entered this gladiatorial arena? Every step he took reverberated, a prelude to catastrophe.
Matviyenko, fiercely determined and sharp-edged as a blade, summoned every ounce of authority she could muster. "This is our moment," her presence seemed to proclaim, her eyes scanning the room for dissent.
"We must spearhead technological advancement," she declared, dismissing the collective fears of labor workers as antiquated. "Old ways need to die."
At this moment, the hall erupted into whispers. Andrei, remaining unyieldingly steady, challenged directly.
"You forgot about the human cost.
Every worker has a story, every migrant has a family." The air thickened with tension, his words struck like thunder.
The senators fidgeted, some exchanged nervous glances, unsure how to react. Matviyenko's frostiness slipped momentarily as she prepared to retort. "Do you truly think we can remain dependent on these workers?" A man in the back shouted, "Who will pave our future if we don't embrace progress?"
Andrei, heart-racing, recalled his father's unwavering spirit as they built bridges, both literal and metaphorical. The true tremor of their conflict lay beneath the surface, rooted in the question of humanity's role in an advancing world.
"Are we to replace empathy with algorithms?" Andrei's voice rang out with conviction. "Without the humans, what does it all mean?" And suddenly, silence engulfed the chamber, thick enough to slice.
The gravity of his rallying cry touched every corner of the room.
No one had expected this. Could it be that humanity is on the brink of losing its essence?
As this thought loomed over the gathering, tension reached a boiling point. Both sides of the argument hung in the air like a taut rope ready to snap, each participant acutely aware that the repercussions of this debate would echo far beyond their meeting hall.
But then, who holds the moral high ground here?
The future of an entire nation hung in the balance. Each choice rippled, casting shadows across dreams of what tomorrow could become. All attention was shifted to the battle unfolding, as the audience became witnesses to an epic showdown between technology and traditional values, on a stage set for perceived salvation and lurking disaster.
In the heated debate, a deputy boldly rejected the push for full automation, declaring it left no room for human lives. Matviyenko slowly turned, her voice calm yet chilling as she noted his words in the official record, the air thick with unspoken threats. What if one man's stand could shatter an entire nation's economic blueprint, leaving leaders scrambling in the shadows? Imagine the pulse of a chamber where hearts race faster than any machine. Could a single whisper from the powerful topple the tide?
The hall hung in fragile balance, heavy breaths echoing off marble walls, the faint scent of polished wood in tension lingering like fog. Then, a voice pierced from the far side, raw and unyielding. "I hope you all see the fallout," it warned.
But no one yielded.
"I see it clearly," another shot back.
"And so should you."
Suddenly, another rose at the podium, a deputy from the Republic of Komi, his face etched with the grit of northern winds. "I stand with him," he declared, voice booming like thunder over tundra.
He nodded toward the defense minister, eyes locked in fierce solidarity.
"Because 40% of our men toil in construction sites, backs bent under steel and stone. No robot will dash to the market for their families, arms laden with bread and hope. No machine will rush a weary wife to the clinic, holding her hand through the chill of uncertainty. And no cold circuit will stand graveside in the dim churchyard, honoring a lost son with quiet tears." Hands shot up now, third, fourth, fifth, like a dam cracking under floodwaters. The rush of murmurs swelling into a roar that vibrated through wooden benches. The minister's words weren't just sound, they were a key, twisting in the rusted lock of buried doubts, unlocking a chest of long-suppressed fears.
Even from his faction, a few heads nodded slowly, whispers rippling like wine through dry leaves.
7, 9, 13 hands now.
The count climbed, relentless. If this surge held, quorum would crumble, votes scattering like leaves in a storm.
The air grew electric, sharp with the tang of sweat and urgency, palms slick, chairs creaking under shifting weight. Then, without fanfare, another figure slipped into the chamber.
No trumpets, no entourage, just a presence that crackled like static before lightning, charging the space with invisible force.
It was Igor Sechenov, the shadowy bridge between the government's economic core and vast corporations, his suit crisp as a blade. His arrival signaled one brutal truth: the old order teetered.
A seismic shift loomed in the ranks.
He moved swiftly to her side, leaning close to Matviyenko's ear, his breath a hot whisper amid the din were hemorrhaging support.
20 votes already slipping away.
She froze, the cool edge of her gaze like ice on steel.
"Rally them or what?" she demanded, voice a frigid blade.
He met her eyes, unflinching.
"Or call a technical break."
Chaos could be rewired, he implied. Reshuffle the committee, swap out dissenting faces like puzzle pieces. She swallowed hard, not from fear, but from the bitter sting of first defeat, tasting like ash on her tongue. Her glance darted to the hall's clock.
Seconds ticking like a heartbeat under siege.
There stood the minister, a mirror of resolve, tall, unyielding, his posture straight as a sentinel's rifle, no bloating in his stance.
Just quiet certainty, soft as a drawn curtain at dusk.
She rose then, steps measured, climbing to the microphone with the weight of crumbling empires on her shoulders.
Colleagues. But what desperate pivot would she unleash next to claw back control?
In a notable event just moments ago, the political atmosphere within Russia became electrifying. Andrei Removic, a prominent figure from the White House, alongside the Minister of Defense and a notable spiritual leader, entered the chamber and immediately pointedly addressed Valentin Matviyenko. The intensity of his words fell heavily upon the assembly, almost preventing the officials from activating their microphones.
Is this merely a crime, or a profound violation of our system as a whole? What did he say to instigate such a reaction, and why was Matviyenko unable to counter his claims?
Stay tuned till the conclusion of this tale. It holds the key to re-establishing your viewpoint on power and authority.
As Removic stepped into the hall, it was devoid of pomp or celebration.
He simply opened the door and entered. The deputies were initially preoccupied with their own matters, caught in conversations or lost in their thoughts, unaware of the shift occurring before them. But the room's atmosphere changed, as if disturbed by a sudden gust of wind. Removic presented himself in a dark, understated suit that mirrored his seriousness, approaching the platform with an air of quiet confidence. His presence conveyed control, yet he looked around, scanning the room as if strategizing for a battle. Those seated were not merely scared but aware, intuitively sensing that a significant moment was about to unfold. Every step he took resonated ominously, like a countdown to an impending revelation. His voice, when he began to speak, was neither too loud nor too soft but commanded attention. It was a haunting reminder of struggles faced by the common man. "Have you ever endured the biting cold in a makeshift shack during February?" he asked, placing the audience into a vivid scene. The room felt suddenly stifling. Imagine one man, fraught with worry, contemplating how to provide for his child amidst despair.
As he continued, a tense silence enveloped the hall. Suddenly, he posed a question challenging the status quo: "Do you propose to replace this man with an automated machine?" He pointed out the flaws in a system blind to humanity, the essence behind a thriving nation. Valentina Matviyenko, known for her commanding presence, attempted to respond, her words slicing through the tension. "But surely, we need to progress toward automation. Are we to remain shackled by dependency on labor migration?"
A ripple of murmurs echoed in response.
But Removic countered, "What price do we pay for this so-called progress? Are we truly prepared for the emptiness that might follow?" Their back and forth sparked fervor, rapidly escalating into an impassioned debate that gripped not just those present but viewers across the nation, triggering emotional reactions that transcended traditional political discourse. As the atmosphere thickened with anticipation, a young deputy raised her hand, hesitantly venturing an innocent yet loaded question: "If we automate everything, who will be left to love?" The hall fell into a deafening silence as the implication hung in the air like smoke in a closed room. The question cut deep. It was a challenge to the economic logic that often overshadowed the very human spirit essential for a nation's heart. All eyes turned to the duo at the center, sensing a tipping point was imminent. Would they redefine the dialogue surrounding progress? Would humanity prevail amidst the tide of technology? The answers remained tantalizingly out of reach. As the camera lenses flickered and screens captured this moment, millions felt an undeniable connection. Such issues reverberated beyond the walls of that hall, igniting conversations in every home, heart, and mind. And then, there was silence, punctuated only by the sound of breath. The nation's pulse quickened, and the weight of unspoken truths bore down on all present. In a moment of intense political upheaval, the air was thick with anticipation. All that the people craved was a single word, not flashy images or politically crafted statements. It was as if the audience, invisible yet palpable, was collectively drawing a breath. Guards stood bewildered, uncertainty brewing as they discovered that, for the first time, everyone was listening intently. Panic began to bubble beneath the surface, simmering with the understanding that a vital truth was about to be unveiled. A subtle yet piercing gaze swept through the echoing chamber, illuminating the solemnity of the occasion. The walls seemed to lean in, almost conspiratorially, as if the very foundations of power were perched on the edge of revelation. The phones buzzed furiously, messages pouring in from behind the curtains of authority. "The president is watching," one whisper cut through the noise, a semblance of authority reminding them of the gravity of the situation. The atmosphere crackled. It felt as though the weight of the country's fate hung in that charged silence. If the eyes of the highest power scrutinized their every move, it was clear, everyone was on trial. One brave soul finally broke the tension. A representative, fueled not by instructions but an internal awakening, raised his hand, a signal no one had anticipated. Other delegates frantically attempted to summon aides, but the virtual network was overwhelmed, chaos blooming as comments flooded in from all sides. "Let's vote, there's no time to waste," came a cry from the back, the sense of urgency igniting the crowd. Their voices echoed questions into the void. At what point does silence break into action? Could a mere suggestion usurp the established order? The former face of authority, once a symbol of intimidation, now pulsated with uncertainty. A revelation was unfolding. A handwritten list, like a rebellion marked on parchment, made its way to the center of the table. It bore the signatures of 43 representatives, a flurry of alliance crystallizing over the past few hours. This isn't a mere initiative, it's an open letter to the entire country, the brave voice thundered, challenging the status quo directly. As the gravity of the moment settled, the room felt the palpable shift in power. This wasn't simply about a policy change, it was a challenge to an entire system that had long kept humanity at arm's length. The battalion of lawmakers sat still, the internal enemy, represented by the very quorum needed for decision-making, looming larger than life. Could the pillars of authority fracture? In this moment, what truly lay at stake was far more significant than numbers. It was a plea for humanity to remain at the heart of governance, a lifeline thrown to the shadows that had, for too long, loomed over progress. The stage was set for a confrontation that would redefine the essence of leadership in turbulent times. In the tense aftermath of the explosive debate, air hung heavy like a storm about to break. Cameras flickered back on, thrusting the drama into public view. Whispers echoed off the walls. Had the embattled minister been exposed? A shocking video clip looped on screens above, revealing a minister accepting funds from shadowy figures. Sourced from an independent channel. The evidence hit like a punch, documents of his secret bank transfers, $7 million wired in 2015. Whispers turned to gasps. Who funded this betrayal? Imagine the Ministry of Defense at its core, tangled in whispers of corruption. Is the man at the helm a patriot or a puppet? The scandal spilled out, exposing every dark corner. But Belousov stood silent, his principles unshaken. What if the truth explodes everything? Kirill Sazonov, the young 41-year-old deputy head of the Duma's defense committee, handpicked by Belousov himself, rose from the shadows. A military analyst hardened by the Academy of the General Staff. Once a loyal shadow, always tactful, never cursing. Respected, heard, part of the inner circle. He emerged at the center, voice steady. I confirm this video is authentic. I obtained it directly from intelligence services. We can't stay silent anymore. Silence gripped the hall like icy fingers. Betrayal murmurs quietly, building like a crescendo. These documents go straight to the investigative committee. He demanded immediate suspension of Andrei Belousov from all duties pending probe. Matviyenko nodded calmly, like a surgeon wielding a scalpel. Sazonov glanced back, cold eyes locking on Belousov. No more words. His gaze pierced like a betrayal unveiled. Was the evidence real, or a setup? Grigory Artemyevich Nazarov, 72, patriarch of the Technological Development Committee, lumbered forth unexpectedly. Dubbed the old technocrat, he stayed neutral, icy, buried in data and benchmarks. Emotion never touched him. Until now. Hands trembling slightly, voice cracking. I was at that meeting. The footage you saw? Doctored. Blackouts marred it, but Belousov refused the bribe. His ethics shone bright, unyielding. Nazarov, the voice of reason, shattered the illusion. In this web of deceit, who pulls the strings? Belousov leaned forward, eyes blazing. The air thickened with unspoken truths. Would he shatter the conspiracy? What dark forces lurk behind the facade? Break away from the lies, reality demands action. Clocks ticked on, alliances fraying at the seams. Smartphone alerts buzzed like warnings. Outside, the first drops of rain pattered against windows. Smells of stale coffee lingered from earlier briefings. Voice of reason, right or wrong? Inside the hall, heat of accusation met cool resolve. Eyes betrayed doubts, hands clutched pens tightly. Silence fell again, heavy-footed. What if Nazarov's words crumble under scrutiny? Ravens crowed ominously in the distance. Stale air clung to lungs. In this storm of truths, can one man stand firm? Vibrations of footsteps echoed. Rain intensified outside.
The faces of those who'd been silent their entire lives twisted in raw emotion. These weren't the deputies clutching their briefcases.
These were the people. The guesthouse walls trembled under the weight of a throng. No invitations. No theatrics. Just everyday souls.
They huddled close, clutching smartphones, thermoses, faded photos tucked in pockets.
One woman gripped a crumpled screenshot of Belorussov's stern gaze. Scribbled by hand, "This man saved my father." In the reflection now, and here, inside the hall. The crowd didn't dissipate.
They simply waited, breaths held in a hush that drowned out all chance.
Drone cameras hovering overhead captured stunned journalists. Masses encircled the building, no push inward, just quiet resolve etched on weathered features.
A young boy, perched on his dad's shoulders, sniffled softly.
"Daddy, is he all alone?" "No, son. Look now. They're everywhere." Inside. A sharp crack echoed. A gunshot?
No, just the tension snapping in the air.
This shouldn't unfold like this. But Belorussov stood mute, unyielding. Signals flashed on secure channels. Witnesses froze. An aide dashed to terminals, screens flickering with encrypted feeds. The president's direct line blinked urgent. "Listen to him directly. Don't dismiss it." Responses trickled in. Almost imperceptible. The president hesitated, paused, then ignited the call. The signal flared alive. Not ominous. Not cruel. Just a voice worn by time, alive with precision. "Valentina Ivanovna Matviyenko," it boomed from speakers.
"If you halt now, you'll shatter 40 years of progress.
Not just structures. I swear this is salvation for the nation. Am I wrong? Prove it."
You're defending authority, not Russia.
The country isn't a machine. It's a heartbeat.
If your figures clash with its pulse, the issue isn't external.
It's in us. Pause. Sweat beaded on brows. Silence pulsed. Let him continue. He's unveiling truths. Don't tune him out. The feed severed.
Immediately, renewed intensity crackled. For a beat, the atmosphere thickened, not like senators vying for power. Like a mother realizing the foe was invincible. A war lost long ago, deaf to pleas. And now, the moment to advance the vote arrived. Not on mere policy. On legacy. Was this the downfall of a system, or its redemption? Feel the chill air, thick with unspoken fears. Smell the faint metallic tang of overheated devices. Hear the faint murmur of hidden alliances cracking. Will Belorussov's unyielding stand humiliate the bureaucracy's facade, twisting power into something unrecognizable? Or will the vote hammer down, burying hope in sterile efficiency? The pulse quickens. What if the real betrayal wasn't the debate, but the echo of silence outside? The day was heavy in the halls of power. The tense atmosphere hummed like a bowstring, taut and ready to snap. No one felt triumphant. Instead, it was a sobering moment. A young senator had fired back, but the reality settled in. They were on the losing side. They hadn't listened, they had underestimated their opponents. And what if this was just the beginning? Voices were hushed. The clash of ideas had started, not for a new law or reform, but for control, the crux of power itself. This was not a light matter to take lightly, it was an existential struggle. A senator from Novgorod, known for his technocratic views, spoke. His position was clear: they welcomed technology, but only as a complement, not a replacement for the human touch. Tools in hand were fine, but they must never overshadow the builders behind them. The room seemed to crackle with tension. The decision was made, not through debates or party lines, but through a quiet consensus that had almost a whisper-like quality. A document had been formed, one that went against the flow. It was a stark warning underscored by an unsettling silence. But what happens when silence speaks louder than words? He fixed his gaze on the camera.
You are not merely an audience. You are part of this moment. Thank you for listening.
Those words hung in the air, heavy with significance. They had just listened. And in that attentive silence, tangible hope and defiance ignited within the chamber. We won, he repeated, yet uncertainty hung in the air, a question that demanded resolution. The journalists rushed down the stairs, eager to capture the aftermath. But their leader bypassed the microphone, choosing instead to face the people. A crowd awaited him, eyes wide with anticipation. "Thank you," a voice rang out from the masses, and a collective breath was held. It was a moment layered with gratitude and unspoken questions. What truth lingered in the silence that followed? What future awaited them? The pulse of the crowd was palpable as some held hands, while others clutched at memories. The air was thick, charged with emotion. Each person stood on a precipice, straddling the line between hope and trepidation. This battle was not easily won, they all knew that. The question remained on everyone's lips: what did it all mean for those fighting in the shadows? As they awaited answers, the weight of their shared struggle pressed on them, the echoes of their voices lingering amidst the uncertainty. This was not merely politics, it was the very essence of humanity navigating an uncertain future. Time would reveal the true cost of their choices, and they were all entwined in the unfolding story. In the previous episode, Valentina Ivanovna Matviyenko had steeled herself in the hall, conceding the floor after a tense exchange. Her duty felt complete. Words mattered to her, but now silence reigned supreme. She set her pen down, sipped cold tea, and sat there, not triumphant, not defeated, just a person contemplating the echoes of debate. What if one man's words could shatter a nation's illusions about progress? Imagine the scent of old maps in a dimly lit office, mingling with the faint bitterness of stale tobacco. Across Moscow, in a weathered building with crumbling facades, Andrei Removic, the Belarusian, sat alone at his desk. The table lamp cast a harsh glow on a worn paper map of Russia. Flags marked conflict zones he'd navigated, handwritten notes dotted the edges, reminders of battles fought and eyes he'd locked with in despair. No medals gleamed here, he sought no applause, for his silence had become a weapon against complacency. A thin wisp of smoke curled from his forgotten cigarette, carrying the acrid tang of introspection. Suddenly, a knock. An unmarked envelope slid across the table, no seals, just a presidential aide's scribbled signature. "Dear Andrei Removic," it read. "We offer you leadership of the Commission on Enhancing Human Roles Through Automation. The nation trusts you. Robots won't replace people, they'll empower them." Your speech shifted the debate, not halting advancement, but guiding it. "We need a compass, not a commander. Will you accept?" He read it, set it aside without a tremor, and gazed out the window. Streetlights flickered to life, casting long shadows as pedestrians trudged home, their footsteps heavy, treating the encroaching night like a fragile truce between past and future. What would a worker on the fringes think of this lofty offer? In far-off Borisovlevsk, a blue overalled welder perched on a stool, welding mask pushed up, phone clutched in calloused hands. The screen played Andrei's debate clip, his voice cutting through like a spark in the dark factory air. "If a person cries, algorithms shouldn't soothe them, people should listen." Tears stung the welder's eyes, his lips quivering from the metal fumes and raw emotion. He wiped sweat from his brow, the gritty touch grounding him. "Stop gawking," he barked at a co-worker loitering nearby, voice rough as rusted iron. The reply came soft, almost inaudible. "Nothing. Just listening to him speak truths we bury under spreadsheets." Words hung in the sawdust-filled air, bridging worlds, cold data versus the pulsating heartbeat of human struggle. Had Andrei's plea planted seeds of rebellion? Or was this just the spark before a reckoning? Twist: what if Andrei's silence was a calculated counterstrike, hiding a move that could redefine Russia's soul? The envelope on his desk pulsed with unseen power, promising transformation but whispering of betrayal. Would he wield it, or let it gather dust? As viewers tuned in by the millions, hashtags ignited the night debate turned destiny. But one question clawed at the air: if machines perfected humanity, what price would we pay for forgetting our imperfections? Whispers of dissent spread like wildfire, leaving Andrei to ponder.
Was affirmation his path, or defiance? Rhetorical ponder, could a single envelope reshape empires, or was it just paper in the wind?
The welder's outburst echoed in Andrei's mind, a mirror to the nation's unrest. Cold tea still sat before him, untouched, as allies and enemies alike held their breath.
What unforeseen ally lurked in the shadows, ready to amplify his voice? And why did the aroma of distant welding flame him like a warning siren? In this clash of steel and spirit, whose side would prevail, the architect of automation or the guardian of human grit? The night grew thick with tension, each passing second a step toward revelation, or ruin. Only 5 minutes ago, in the Russian Duma, there was no doubt about what the entire political storm brewing in Russia hinged on, and now, prepare for the shock, Andrei Removic, the White House insider and Minister of Defense, strode into the hall and pinned Valentina Matviyenko right there, her face twisting like a mask cracking under pressure. His words hit harder than a sledgehammer, silencing the room so completely that the operators scrambled to mute the mics, leaving lawmakers frozen, eyes wide in disbelief. This wasn't just a clash, it was a seismic event ripping through the entire system. What bombshell did he drop? And why didn't Matviyenko fire back head-on, humiliating him in the heat of the moment? Stick around till the end of this tale, and you'll rediscover faith in real authority. Who do you believe in, the White House ghost or the Iron Lady? Dive in, and let's unravel this drama. The first whispers of shock rippled out just 23 minutes after that fateful meeting ended, thrusting Andrei Removic into the epicenter of a political wildfire that scorched Russia's elite. Online, the buzz exploded like dynamite. In the corridors of power, it simmered beneath the surface. For the first time, he forced a vote on a pivotal agenda, humans versus numbers, led by the very man once accused of dereliction in defense. Why is he quoting real lives now, words that echo like battlefield cries? Images flooded phones worldwide, cascading across networks while TV stayed eerily silent. It wasn't a bureaucrat speaking, it was a father's raw voice, unafraid to lay bare the nation's soul. In factories and kitchens. Viewers paused, eyes glistening. This wasn't about policy, it was about remembering what makes us human. Up in an office on the 4th floor, Valentina Matviyenko sat alone, twin cups of tea before her, one drained cold, the other untouched like a ghost from better days. The room was impeccably ordered, furniture gleaming under fluorescent glare. But her eyes? They weren't dry, not from rage, but from a quiet storm brewing inside. On her desk lay a folder, its pages strewn with reactions, a rare stumble in a decade of unflinching control. Her signature hovered indecisively, inked in her customary black, yet crossed out twice, each line slashing like a wound. She stared at the blotch, grasping its weight. Then, pen in hand, she opened a fresh page and scrawled, "I request dismissal from my current duties. My time is done. People are words. I am silence." Silence matters more when words have carried the fight to its finish. She set the pen down with a soft click, sipped the chilled tea, its bitter tang clinging to her tongue, and sat there, not as a victor or vanquished, but as a mere human, brittle and exposed. Circa, wait for it, was this the ultimate humiliation, or the twist that humanizes a titan? What if I told you Removic's firestorm ignited a revolution, propelling his impassioned plea beyond the walls of Moscow, to the smoky factories of Barnaul where real men wept? Andrei Removic wasn't emerging as a fallen angel of power, he was renounced, his fiery exchange in the Duma forever etched as the spark that humbled cold ambition. Reports of his passion spread like wildfire in mere minutes post-debate, pitching him against the tidal wave of automation championed by Matviyenko herself. For the first time, a vote swung on real versus calculated, led by the ex-Minister of Defense, embroiled in past scandals for quoting rugged lives over sterile stats. Why now, with the ferocity of a lion reclaiming his territory? Phones buzzed globally with viral feeds, screens ablaze, while state TV. Only 5 minutes ago, in the State Duma, everyone sensed the political storm brewing. Andrei Belousov, the Belarusian, Russia's Minister of Defense and a Syrian war veteran, stormed the hall and cornered Valentina Matviyenko. His words hit so hard that technicians couldn't switch on the microphones, leaving deputies stunned. This wasn't mere argument, it fractured the system. What did he say? Why didn't Matviyenko counter directly? Stay tuned. It'll shock you back to reality. Like, subscribe, comment, who was right, Belousov, Matviyenko, or you? Let's begin.
Matviyenko reclaimed the floor, her tone slicing like a blade, icy and unforgiving.
Andrei Removic, you're stirring emotions. The words hung, heavy with reproach. But the nation isn't fragile. We don't empathize here. We battle the economy. She paused, the air thickening like fog before a storm. And if you cling to sentiment beside the economy, what happens if people vanish? Tension coiled tight. Deputies shifted, whispers rustling like dry leaves. Belousov didn't flinch. Ever wonder if your automated factories crumble, buyers gone because no one feels joy? Silence gripped the room, sharp and absolute.
I've witnessed the system's decay not in charts or chambers, but in eyes of the discarded, haunted by looming loss. You demand regulations.
I defend the people. You streamline machines. I protect human spirit.
He climbed the podium, cameras whirring.
Translators muttered live commentary. Rules against soul, they said. He feels it, can't express why. Do these even belong in charge?
Matviyenko retreated to her seat, gaze fixed. Assessing him like a fortress wall, impenetrable stone, not soaring eagle, but one shattering illusions. Vote called thrice.
No one monitored for hours.
This chamber pulsed with truth. Inside, he unleashed raw reality.
Name Belousov cracked the facade. Weary now. Years of rhetoric warped into something serpentine. But not politics, pure revelation.
On Ministry's 6th floor, below seats, inferno raged, not heat, but strain.
Secretaries, clerks, tech experts, Soviets stomped, keys clacked frenzy, papers flew like scattering ashes. Monitors flickered hellish glow, digital fear erupting when doors burst. A man flung a chair. Monitoring chief barked into headphones. 2 million watching.
Cut now, disaster.
Censors will bury us. Reports failed, technical chaos. Sweat mingled with ozone sting. Fingers trembled on keys, panic's grip bruising skin. Did Belousov ignite Russia's soul or condemn it? Cliffhanger loomed, would the truth explode online, or vanish in flames? Stay gripped. Whispers escalated, screens blazing fiery red. What hidden twist awaited in the shadows? Imagine this, what if one man's hidden act of kindness from nearly a decade ago could shatter an entire chamber of power, forcing leaders to confront their souls in front of millions? A single letter, buried in secrecy, explodes into betrayal and redemption, exposing the raw cost of progress. Could ethics truly topple a system built on cold numbers? In the heated aftermath of Andrei Belousov's defiant stand against automation's heartless march, where he evoked the sweat and tears of forgotten workers, the chamber still buzzed with unspoken tension. Deputies shifted uneasily, the air thick with the scent of polished wood and stale coffee, hearts pounding like distant thunder. A quiet voice pierced the hush. It came from Deputy Nazarov, his hands trembling slightly as he clutched a faded envelope. This letter, it details aid from a personal fund for 7 fallen construction workers. Belousov gathered those resources back in 2015. Privately. No fanfare. No bids for applause. Just quiet resolve, because true compassion doesn't chase spotlights. He paused, the paper crinkling softly in the heavy silence, like whispers in a storm. The room held its breath, the faint hum of microphones amplifying every rustle. I endorse this fully, Nazarov declared, extending the document from the assembled papers. If we scrutinize someone's aid through the lens of strict protocols, tomorrow, we'll all flee our own guilty reflections in the mirror. How can we demand integrity while hiding behind rules that crush the human spirit? Nazarov stepped closer to Belousov, their shadows merging on the worn carpet. The warmth of urgency palpable in the narrowing space. I've held my tongue for 20 long years. But today, silence isn't an option. He snatched the document from Belousov's grasp, his fingers brushing callous skin, marks of battles long fought. And you destroyed him, Nazarov accused, voice cracking like brittle ice underfoot. Belousov's eyes narrowed, the sting of betrayal hanging sharp in the air, tasting of iron and regret. You turned your back on him. On every soul who trusted that hidden truths protect the innocent like a child's fragile dreams, not twisted into weapons. Nazarov froze, his gaze drifting away, unfocused, as if chasing ghosts in the dim light. His complexion drained to a lifeless gray, cold as damp concrete after rain, the chill seeping into his bones. Deep down, he knew. Those 7 lives behind the letter, he hadn't shielded them. They were pawns now, exploited for leverage. What choice would come next? Forgiveness, or fracture? Belousov reached out, clasping Zalzimir's arm firmly, the grip steady yet pleading, veins pulsing with restrained fire. Now, it's my turn to question. He pivoted toward Belousov, words dissolving into motion, no speeches, just raw intent. The hall's murmurs swelled, a low rumble like approaching waves. He lifted the list high, the pages fluttering like captured flags in the draft from open vents. Call for an open vote. Right here. Right now. Let every voice declare, do we veer toward compassion's path, or chase machines that demand no more from us? The chamber echoed with the weight of it, chairs creaking as bodies leaned forward. Sweat beading on foreheads. An open vote, Belousov echoed, his tone resolute, cutting through the tension like a knife through fog. The energy pooled at the hall's heart, not from the elevated podium, not in scripted farewells. No. Right in the midst. He sought no allies. He yielded nothing. He simply challenged, stripped bare, no gadgets, no switches, no digital tallies masking true intent. Raise your hands, he urged, for those who hold the system above all else. The first rose hesitantly, Marx, his palm slicing the air with quiet defiance. Then the one from the mosque, deliberate and firm. Next, the deputy from the Charities Committee, her arm trembling yet unyielding. A woman from education followed, her movement swift, ice fierce. An elder from Dagestan lifted his, weathered skin folding like ancient maps. A youth from Tver joined, youthful vigor sparking the chain. One by one, they surged. What began as isolated gestures swelled into a sea of uplifted arms, the rustle of sleeves like wind through leaves, not mere dissent, but a thunderous claim of conscience. The air crackled with possibility, breaths sinking in ragged unison. And in that swelling tide, victory's shadow loomed, unbidden and fierce. Yet, beneath it all, a hidden camera, tucked low under the table, feeding live to the state broadcast, seized the pivotal truth. As hands multiplied, blotting the lights overhead, the feed captured a leader's face crumpling in the glare. Zalzimir's eyes widened, realizing the wave couldn't be contained. But who would break first, and what secret would the next revelation unleash? In a gripping political showdown, Andrei Removic, representing the White House, confronts Valentina Matviyenko in the Duma. His powerful entrance shocks the room as he critically challenges the foundations of Russian politics. With the atmosphere heavy and tense, he speaks not just to the politicians present, but to the people watching from afar. The air thickens with anticipation as he dissects the complexities of labor and progress, emphasizing the humanity behind stark numbers and automated systems. Have you ever spent a freezing February night in a construction wagon? He asks, evoking empathy for the working class. His voice rises, layered with urgency. Amid the cold and despair, there lies a truth that algorithms cannot replace. The senators exchange glances, their unease palpable. Suddenly, a young deputy interjects. If we replace humans with robots, who will love? His naive yet profound question echoes down the halls, stirring a reflection that shakes the complacency of the assembly. As the debate intensifies, Matviyenko, ever defiant, asserts, we must not dwell on nostalgia. The future demands pragmatism. Just as tensions peak, a glitch occurs. The room watches in disbelief as an unexpected video feeds onto the screen, revealing a clandestine meeting between a minister and an unidentified man. Snippets of the shaky recording suggest corruption, money changing hands under the surface, hidden from the public eye. The atmosphere shifts dramatically. Audience members lean forward, hushed whispers fill the room. Who is this shadowy figure? What other secrets are concealed behind the official facade? For a brief moment, the power dynamics flip. Is Valentina Matviyenko really in control, or is she merely a pawn in a larger game?
As the screen dims, the weight of the moment hangs in the air. We are at a crossroads, Removic declares, where choices will define the future of our nation. His solemn tone reverberates through the hall, leaving everyone questioning their own beliefs.
Who truly has the power in this political arena, and at what cost?
Each individual in the room is confronted with their own truths, igniting a spark for change that could alter the course of history itself. The message is clear: watch closely, for the stakes have never been higher, and the real battle for Russia's future has only just begun.
What will unfold next?
The answer lies beyond the walls of power, waiting to be uncovered. In the heart of the debate, Andrei Removic stood firm against cold automation, his words cutting deep about the human cost, leaving Valentina Matviyenko frozen in tension and the entire chamber gripped by an unbreakable silence that echoed like a distant thunder.
What if one man's raw truth could silence a nation's leaders, and summon the highest power without warning?
Imagine the chill of anticipation thickening the air, like frost on a winter window, as every eye locks on a single screen.
Andrei Removic's voice sliced through the hush, steady yet fierce.
"You've clung to every rule," he declared.
"But have you truly examined the papers? No seals. No formal channels."
The words hung heavy, the faint scent of polished wood and stale coffee sharpening the edge.
"Yes, it's unconventional," he pressed on. "Because conscience demands no bureaucracy." A murmur rippled, soft as rustling papers under nervous fingers. "Where's the oversight hidden? Not deeply buried.
It's unendorsed, yet it calls for action now." Suddenly, the massive screen flickered to life.
No fanfare. No polished feed. Just raw reality. A simple office desk, unmarked, shadowed by dim lamps. One figure alone.
The president's face filled the frame, eyes piercing the lens.
Silence stretched, taut as a drawn bowstring.
Then, his voice broke through, calm and unyielding.
"I see."
The chamber turned to stone. Even the guards froze, rigid as ancient statues under the cool draft from overhead vents.
Breath held collectively, the air tasting metallic with shock.
"I listen," he continued.
No scripts. No data slides. No cues. I listen to the people.
A pause deepened, shadows playing across his features like fleeting memories of long campaigns. Warmth flickered in his gaze, a father's quiet resolve.
"I won't meddle in protocols," he added. "But I recall what matters. Russia isn't a machine. Not a stage. This is a nation, with a soul." Blackness swallowed the screen. No words. No farewell.
Just echoing quiet, pressing against eardrums like the weight of unspoken judgments.
Andrei Removic eased back to his seat, the creak of leather under him the only sound breaking the spell. Was that intervention enough to shift the tide? Whispers ignited instantly. One clap. Then a wave.
20 voices joined, swelling to a roar that vibrated through the wooden benches. Valentina Matviyenko rose, her posture cracking like thin ice. "I declare a 10-minute technical pause," she announced, voice steady but eyes betraying the storm.
Yet no one stirred.
Deputies remained rooted, gazes fixed on her, the humid air thick with unresolved fire.
It was obvious. The break was pretense. Belief hung in the balance. No retreat. Then chaos struck. Lights dimmed abruptly. The main feed shattered into static, screens plunging to inky voids in the far corners.
Panic-buzzed fingers tapped furiously on devices, questions flying like sparks.
What happened? Why the blackout? Where's the truth now?
But in a hidden stream, on a backup line, the broadcast defied the glitch.
One quick-thinking technician bypassed the controls. No fancy setup. Just a phone in manual mode, spare power humming faintly.
The session surged on, raw and unfiltered.
No overseers. No captions. Pure and censored pulse. And there, in that secret flow, millions tuned in.
Viewers caught the moment Andrei Removic approached the podium once more, his shadow lengthening like a gathering storm.
But what bombshell would he unleash next, with the nation's eyes secretly upon him?
In the tense aftermath of the debate, whispers rippled through the halls like echoes of thunder. Deputies clutched their notes, aides froze mid-step, and the air hung heavy with unspoken questions. Everyone waited, hearts pounding, for the words that could shatter the fragile balance. No one fled, they stood rooted, sensing the storms I had just passed. But what if one man's raw truth just toppled Russia's ironclad political machine? In a shocking twist, the defense minister's plea for humanity over cold tech went viral in under 23 minutes, igniting a firestorm that blinded even the boldest leaders. Could this be the crack that brings the whole system crashing down? Deep within the grand halls of the State Duma, silence gripped everyone. Aides stood frozen. Operators fumbled with controls. Advisors exchanged wide-eyed glances. It felt like the hush after a fierce storm, when the winds die but the damage reveals itself. No one spoke. They were trained to pivot, to adjust, to respond in seconds. Yet now? Confusion reigned. How would dawn break after this? A real man, unscripted, no notes or votes, had just eclipsed the entire machine. He spoke from the soul, raw and unfiltered. Word spread like wildfire. Just 23 minutes after the session closed, headlines exploded. Belousov's clash shakes the political arena. For the first time in history, the Duma's agenda flipped on a human cry over digits. Why did the defense minister invoke forgotten workers, and quote the plight of children left behind? Screens everywhere lit up. Phones buzzed in pockets across the globe. Traditional broadcasts? They stuttered, went quiet. But online? Chaos erupted. Feeds burned with shares. It wasn't a minister's speech anymore. It was a father's voice, calling the nation home. In that moment, he didn't beg for Russia's soul. He simply woke it. No please, just a reminder of what we'd buried. Now, millions paused. Why chase progress, if it erases us? Up on the fourth floor, in her office, Valentina Ivanovna Matviyenko sat alone. 2 teacups rested nearby. One drained dry. The other, untouched and cooling. Furniture gleamed as always, polished to perfection. But something shifted. Her eyes, they glistened. Not with defeat, no bitterness stung. Just quiet reflection, like rain on glass after a gale. A folder lay open on the desk. Inside, a brief report on reactions. For the first time in a decade, her notes blurred. Lines crossed out, data smudged in haste. She'd lost the edge. The fire that fueled her. Yet truth lingered, unyielding. She gripped the pen. Flipped to a fresh page. Words flowed steady, request to confirm my duties remain intact. Time enough has passed. People wield words. I choose silence. Deeper impact echoes, long after voices fade. She signed it. Set the pen down with a soft click. Sipped the chilled tea, its faint bitterness mirroring the weight in her chest. Then, she simply sat. Not victor, not vanquished. Just human. The room smelled of aged wood, and cooling resolve. But outside, footsteps hurried. Whispers built like distant thunder. What hidden decision brewed in that silence, ready to unleash the next wave? In a tense moment within the halls of power, something monumental was about to unfold. The atmosphere was charged, like the air before a storm. Suddenly, the silence shattered as Andrei Removic, a striking figure in his dark suit, strode in with purpose. His presence dwarfed the opposition, leaving the assembly speechless. What words did he unleash that could stir such commotion? And why did Valentina Matviyenko seem so unprepared for the confrontation? As the tension thickened, Removic appeared calm, his gaze scanning the room like a general returning to the battlefield. He didn't wade through with fanfare, he was there to make a statement. In the backdrop, Matviyenko stood poised, her demeanor fierce and resolute, ready to respond. She had no time for weakness, this was a woman who commanded the room, embodying authority. But then, Removic's voice cut through the stillness. He painted a vivid picture of despair and disillusionment, describing a winter bedridden in struggle, or a father, Ahmed, battled to provide a better life for his daughter, shackled by the harsh reality of their existence. "Are we ready to trade human lives for the comfort of automation?" he challenged, the words landing heavily in the hall like a gut punch. The room held its breath. You could almost hear a pin drop. Removic continued, escalating the stakes, highlighting the profound loss of humanity that automation could bring. "The country is built by hands, not algorithms," he declared passionately, igniting a thought-provoking silence. But Matviyenko, unfazed, shot back. "Are we to remain dependent on labor migration?" Her voice quivered with determination. This was a clash of ideologies, automation versus the human touch, and every dot of sweat on the deputy's brows revealed their tension. Onlookers could sense the palpable divide growing, and whispers of disagreement bubbled quietly in the corners of the room. The stakes were monumental. Would tradition hold, or would modernization sweep through like a relentless wave? As Matviyenko poised to defend her position, a young deputy nervously raised his hand and asked a simple but haunting question. "If we rely on machines, who will love?" The silence lingered again, a heavy blanket. No one had an answer. Yet in that wordless moment, the true cost of progress hung heavily in the air. Would the assembly choose to sacrifice sentiment for efficiency? The hearts of those in attendance ached, for they knew that if humanity was lost, then true progress would mean nothing at all. Removic stood resolute, knowing this debate would ripple far beyond these walls, eternally changing the fabric of their society. As the camera rolled, capturing every heartbeat of this confrontation, an unseen force began to resonate. More than 1 million viewers would witness this real, raw moment of political theater unfold. What would become of this battle for the soul of the nation? In a shocking turn of events just moments ago, the air in the Grand Chamber of Gostam thickened with tension. Andrei Removic, defense minister, bearer of weighty words, an influential figure, strode toward the dais with an intent that felt almost palpable. His presence shadowed the gathered deputies, as they braced for the storm he was about to unleash. What exactly did he utter to leave the listeners rattled and speechless, with no microphones activated? Imagine the sound of silence swallowing an entire room. As he entered, Andrei did not arrive in a parade of pomp. He simply opened the door and walked in. The deputies around him, caught up in personal conversations or showcasing indifference, quickly sensed something monumental was about to transpire. Removic, donned in a dark suit reminiscent of old graffiti, glided through the space, eyes steady, demeanor unyielding, embodying a figure of calculated poise amid the chaos brewing beneath the surface. His presence commanded respect, like a seasoned general returning to the battlefield, where fierce debates were often the only weapon of choice. Yet today, the stakes felt more dire. They could sense the inflection in his tone. As he looked ahead, his piercing gaze scanned the assembly not with fear, but with a sharp awareness. And the anticipation in the room was almost deafening. Valentina Ivanovna, the esteemed figure who traditionally radiated confidence, met his gaze. Her composition was fierce, striking, yet behind that formidable facade, there stirred a current of unease. "You've been absent from our seats for too long," she remarked. The air thick with challenge. What repercussions would follow this clash of titans, where ideals met raw ambition? As the confrontation unfolded, Removic's voice, though initially low, rose above the hum of shock. "Have you ever sat in a cramped wagon in February, with the cold biting? Picture Ahmed, worrying about feeding his daughter while trapped in that despair." Pausing for effect, he emphasized the human cost behind economic decisions, igniting ripples in the audience's hearts. "You offer machines and automation but forget the soul of the country is built by the hands that labor." The atmosphere shifted. Every year was attuned to his rallying call against the reduction of lives to mere data points. What happens when efficiency strips away our humanity? Will we trade love and passion for cold calculations? The tension intensified, not only for Matviyenko but for all present. In that electrified atmosphere, where every participant could feel the urgency of truth, a pivotal question emerged. Who stood to benefit and who would pay the ultimate price? As Matviyenko's expression changed from annoyance to seriousness, the battle lines were drawn. But it was not merely a conflict of policy, it was a fight for the nation's very essence. Andrei's words peeled back layers of routine debates to expose the raw heart of the matter, humanity entwined in a web of political webs. The ensuing silence was pregnant with meaning, a suspended moment where everything hung in the balance, teetering between idealism and pragmatism. As we ponder the outcome of this extraordinary encounter, we must ask ourselves, in the pursuit of progress, what have we sacrificed? Stay tuned. The unfolding narrative holds secrets that could redefine the political landscape, and the implications are far-reaching. What will happen next? In a critical moment before a pivotal vote, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation in the grand hall of the government. All eyes were fixated on Valentina Matviyenko, whose looming presence promised a tense confrontation. Silence enveloped the chamber, thick and heavy, akin to the hush before a thunderstorm. This wasn't merely a political gathering, it was a battleground of ideologies. Suddenly, a tall figure emerged, stark against the cold marble backdrop. His name was Lepnitsky, a shadowy ghost of the Duma, known for his rare appearances. His entrance signaled an urgent need for change, a legal sweep of the political landscape. He strode forward, flanked by two aides, their expressions smooth and unreadable, like a pristine interface waiting for commands. Lepnitsky, without acknowledging the assembly, delivered a chilling decree, proposing to restrict deputies from voicing opinions on pressing issues within a mere 3 minutes. With surgical precision, he wielded his words as a scalpel, cutting through the bureaucracy without a hint of remorse. The White House's calm voice, tinged with underlying urgency, queried the rationale behind such drastic measures, evoking the tense atmosphere of a late-night military briefing. Lepnitsky remained silent, merely brandishing the official document, a signed order from the chairman, which left the room in stunned silence. Those present recognized the implications. Retreat was not an option for the White House now. As the microphones finally activated, an electric tension gripped the air. The White House approached the podium, cameras rolling, broadcasting the moment to countless viewers. "Colleagues," he began, "what are we attempting to silence, a knife-wielding man or a wounded nation?" Lepnitsky's vehement denial echoed through the room, as he insisted on the legality of his position, revealing the depths of the political chasm. The microphone, meant to capture reasoned debate, instead recorded a clash of wills. With every word exchanged, the stakes continued to rise. Would they truly risk stifling voices, or would they face the reality of a population hungry for change? The stage was set for a showdown, the weight of history hanging in the balance. The air vibrated with anticipation, every participant acutely aware that this debate could shape the future. Would they uphold the status quo, or embrace the challenge offered by Lepnitsky's bold proposal? Then, a young senator unclenched their fist and prepared to speak, a whisper of fear in the air. "If we replace people with robots," he posed, "who will know love?" The room fell into a deep, contemplative silence, pierced only by the low hum of the cameras. This question, seemingly simple yet profound, would echo far beyond this assembly. The future was unfolding before them, and with it, the haunting question, at what cost progress? The tension in the hall had reached a boiling point. Andrei Removic stood at the center of the political storm, unleashing his fierce critique of the current regime. It was a moment that could determine the fate of a nation. What happens when we replace people with machines? When emotion and happiness are stripped from our society? A hush fell over the audience, heavy with weighty unspoken thoughts. The atmosphere thickened as they reflected on their lives, on the possibilities of unemployment and despair. With every word, Andrei painted a vivid picture of a future devoid of human connection. The once lively responses of the crowd faded into stillness. "You speak of optimization, but I speak of life," he thundered. His voice echoed off the walls like a battle cry against complacency. He stood firm at the podium, eyes steady, projecting an air of determination that made the hairs on the back of necks prickle. Meanwhile, Valentina Matviyenko, known for her steely resolve, countered, her voice edged with cold precision. "Andrei, don't play with feelings. This country isn't sick, it's our economy that suffers." A gasp passed through the crowd, a collective intake of breath at the sharpness of her tone. They could sense the battle lines drawn, the stakes higher than ever. Would they choose the path of machines over men, efficiency over empathy?
Then, seconds turned into an eternity. Andrei's heart raced like a motor in overdrive, each beat driving home the urgency of his message. He understood the gravity of his challenge. He stepped closer to Matviyenko. Their gazes locked in a fierce showdown that felt like the finale of an epic saga played out in slow motion. We cannot let algorithms dictate our humanity. We're not just numbers on a chart, we have hearts and souls. The room crackled with energy, the overhead lights flickering as if caught in the ebb and flow of the debate. Andrei's passion seeped through every inch of the auditorium. Outside, he imagined the city thrumming with life, yet inside, the air felt charged and oppressive, as if it held its breath in anticipation of what would unfold. Do we want to live in a world where human needs are secondary? He pressed on, his voice a resonant thunder, demanding an answer. The silence was deafening. He could almost hear the pulse of the nation, the collective heartbeat of a populace wondering if anyone was truly listening. Would they sacrifice their humanity for the sake of progress? Moments stretched, each tick of the clock echoing louder than the last, as if the very fabric of the system shuddered under the weight of truth. The crowd, now a single being, held a myriad of emotions: fear, hope, resignation, defiance. What choice would they make, and who would ultimately guide their future? As Valentina prepared to retort, Andrei sensed a shift in the crowd. The air thickened with the scent of tension and anticipation. Would this be the moment that changed everything? Matviyenko's next words hung in the air like a challenge, sharp and decisive. Andrei braced himself, knowing that destiny often arrived on the wings of these fleeting yet monumental moments. Would the truth prevail? Or would it fade into the background like so many forgotten tales? The pivotal moment ignited a spark, and the true battle for the heart of the nation had only just begun. Only moments ago, in the heart of Gostom, the air was thick with anticipation. The political landscape of Russia was about to shift dramatically. Andrei Removic, representing the White House and the Ministry of Defense, strode into the chamber, instantly capturing the attention of his colleagues. He approached Valentin Matviyenko, standing defiantly in the limelight. The tension was palpable, and even the cameras struggled to capture the weight of the moment. Deputies were left stunned, unsure of how to react. "What you're doing isn't merely an error, it's a systemic violation," he thundered. What exactly did he mean by that? Why didn't Matviyenko retort more forcefully? Keep listening, the resolution of this standoff may surprise you. Removic entered the hall coolly, unannounced, as if summoned by destiny rather than chaos. Initially, no one seemed to take notice. Some were engrossed in conversation, others appeared lost in thought, and some bore expressions of resignation. The building itself seemed to stiffen in response to his presence, as though the very architecture sensed the tension that was about to unfold. Dressed in a dark suit reminiscent of bleak graffiti, he projected an aura of calm authority, his eyes revealing neither fear nor rage, just a profound awareness. Every step he took reverberated like a countdown to a political detonation. As he approached Matviyenko, she met him with a piercing glint in her eyes, exuding authority tempered by years of calculated power plays. Dressed in a meticulously tailored gray ensemble, her demeanor was sharp, ready for a decisive strike. "We must lead the charge toward automation," she declared, her voice cutting through the room like a scalpel, firm and unwavering. But darkness loomed behind her assertion. Would she really leave the vulnerable behind in favor of an ambitious agenda? Suddenly, silence enveloped the chamber. One voice pierced through, questioning the very foundation of their discussion: what about the human cost? It was a sobering reminder that numbers alone cannot dictate destiny. A flurry of whispers filled the air, and every ear strained to catch every whispered word. Removic took it upon himself to answer: "You talk about machines, yet forget the humans who lay the groundwork." His tone echoed in the room, palpably shaking even the most resolute. The real conflict lay beneath the surface, a clash of two realms, one of cold expertise and the other of beating hearts. His memory flickered back to a frigid February morning, a construction site, with workers bundled against the chilling wind, contemplating their struggles over a half-filled thermos. "Replace Ahmed with machines," he challenged, his voice now a battle cry against the dispassionate march of progress. "Machines don't remember, machines don't feel." The tension hung like an uncut ribbon, waiting for tension to unravel it. And amid this atmosphere, Matviyenko's presence loomed large.
If we lose our way, she countered, her tone shifting, we lose our future. Every deputy in the chamber hung on this moment, aware that the stakes had never been higher.
But what would be the price of that future? Would the algorithms we trust betray our humanity?
The clock ticked down towards an uncertain fate as their words collided, and the sense of impending change pressed heavily upon them like a thick fog.
What would be the outcome of this fierce intellectual duel? Would they sacrifice the past in pursuit of progress, or could they find a balance? As the drama unfolded, all eyes remained fixed, breath held, waiting for the next voice to rise. The atmosphere in the Duma was tense, the air thick with unspoken words. There was a pivoting moment that turned everything on its head. An operator had neglected to turn on the camera, pivoting to manual mode instead. A spare battery was in play, yet the show went on unfiltered, raw, and unedited. People tuned in, witnessing the unveiling of truths that echoed within the chamber like a thunderclap. As the screen flickered to life, it displayed a scene that sent shockwaves through the audience. Removic, known for his stoicism and sharp intellect, was not on the dais but among the deputies, palpable tension trailing behind him. He had stood up, not just to address the assembly but to awaken a numb audience. The sound of silence reigned as he began to speak with a calm intensity. What are we? Who are we?
His voice was a rasp against the deafening stillness.
It wasn't about the past anymore, it was about reminding each person in that room of their humanity.
He continued, for years, we've allowed our identities to erode under the weight of bureaucracy and protocols. As he spoke, some could feel the essence of a long-lost spirit stir within them. The references to burdens born in shackles forged brought both nostalgia and a hint of rebellion. Suddenly, the ground felt shaky as if years of complacency were about to crumble under the sheer weight of his words. Then, with a swift transition, the screen illuminated again. This time, it presented an unsettling video, grainy but potent.
Removic was seen speaking in a dim corridor, devoid of pomp.
Sharing some whispered secret with a man of Caucasian visage who seemed desperate for change, a plea shoved against the walls of power. Just as the gasp of disbelief swept through the hall, the footage shifted, displaying a message indicating that the minister received illicit funds from unknown sources. The implications lay heavy in the air, each word drawing gasps, disbelief, and agitation. Surprise sparked as people turned, some incredulous, others enraged at the betrayal hinted at by the visuals. The reality was no longer obscured. This was not just political theater, it was a revelation that could shake the very foundations of the regime. Did Removic knowingly expose a dark scheme right before their very eyes? What would the repercussions be for all involved? The tension drew tight as the questions loomed larger than ever, permeating the atmosphere with an unsettling anticipation that clung to every soul present. Was the silence shattered forever? Would the weight of these revelations be too heavy to bear? Only time would tell, as emotions surged and alliances began to shift in unexpected ways. In a tense chamber of power, emotions simmered just beneath the surface.
Removic emerged quietly from the chamber, an unexpected calm in the storm of political chaos.
His reputation had a way of overshadowing the room, a mix of anticipation and dread lingering like stale smoke. Dressed in a gray suit that echoed the muted atmosphere, he carried the weight of unspoken truths.
The stare of the deputies, a blend of apprehension and curiosity, held him in their grip. As he approached the podium, silence fell like a heavy blanket.
He leaned in, and his voice cut through the stillness, hauntingly calm.
Have any of you ever spent a freezing February night in a cramped construction trailer? No warmth, just whispers of desperation. A pause lingered, thick with unacknowledged fears. The room hung on his words, the tension palpable, a collective breath held tight.
He gestured towards Valentina Matviyenko, the formidable figure across from him, face showcasing decades of political warfare.
You propose automation over humanity. But what of Ahmed, who dreams of providing for his daughter while battling the bitter cold?
The air crackled with intensity.
And you, Valentina, think robots can replace the warmth of human hands?
In response, her sharpness sliced through the atmosphere.
Progress doesn't wait for nostalgia, Andre. we must optimize our economy.
Her voice was as smooth as polished steel, but there was an underlying tremor of fear of inadequacy, fear of change. Their ideological tug-of-war electrified the atmosphere, the stakes higher than mere numbers on a ledger.
Yet, Andrei pushed back. Will those numbers embrace our loved ones? Can they feel the weight of sorrow when dreams dissolve?
Each point was a raised finger, a spark igniting the room's energy.
Matviyenko, fierce and unwavering, narrowed her gaze, assessing the battlefield.
But he was not the only soldier in this war over the heart of their nation. One deputy, emerging from the shadows of the crowd, posed a question that echoed through the chamber.
If we replace human touch with algorithms, who will care? Who will love?
The simplicity of the words struck like a hammer on an anvil, the essence of their conflict laid bare. With the faint buzz of anticipation in the air, a consensus began to take shape, a movement rising from quiet dissent. And as tension escalated, cameras captured the palpable shift, the heartbeat of a nation echoing within those walls.
Would they choose technology over humanity? Or would they find a way to return to their roots? The moment was fragile, electric, as eyes flicked between leaders, each waiting for the other to crack. With his next words, Andrei's voice fell to a near whisper, enticingly vulnerable yet powerfully introspective. What have we become if we tear apart the very fabric that makes us human?
It was a question that left the audience breathless, poised delicately on the edge of transformation. What began as a political discourse was evolving into something far more profound, a battle for the soul of their nation.
Would they remember to fight for both progress and compassion? The answer lingered tantalizingly close.
In the grand chambers of the State Duma, a storm brewed just 5 minutes earlier.
Russia's entire political landscape trembled under the weight of a single man's audacity.
Andrei Removic, the formidable Minister of Defense, strode into the hall and cornered Valentina Matviyenko, piercing her defenses with words so sharp that technicians fumbled microphones, leaving lawmakers stunned.
This wasn't mere dissent, it exposed cracks in the system itself. What incendiary truths did he unleash? Why did Matviyenko hold back her counterstrike? Stay tuned for every pulse-pounding detail, because this clash could redefine power dynamics forever. Who truly held the moral high ground, cunning politicians, defiant ministers, or the silent observers watching from afar? Dive in now.
The hall hummed with ordinary chaos as usual. Deputies mingled, some rising to assist others, a few whispering with neighbors, others brooding in palpable unease. But the room's very architecture seemed to fracture. Andrei Removic, the hawkish Minister of Defense, entered without pomp, no fanfare, no entourage. He simply pushed through the door, commanding attention.
A hush fell like a shockwave.
His dark charcoal suit mirrored another's, yet every thread screamed precision. His gait exuded steel, chest forward, shoulders set like a battlefield strategist surveying terrain. Eyes, a deep sorrowful calm, betrayed no fear, only resolve. Senators froze in their seats, not from terror, but from premonition. This was no routine session.
Each step echoed a ticking bomb. Facing Valentina Ivanovna Matviyenko.
Her voice,
a deft scalpel laced with icy authority. Do I see weakness here?
Her words always landed like guillotine blows. A deep navy ensemble hugged her form, pearls gleaming in the dim light, hairstyle to perfection. Known as the Merciless, the woman who crushed opponents in public arenas.
She launched first, voice slicing through the air. She declared, "We lead in tech advancements. Automation in agriculture, logistics, everywhere. Migrant labor is obsolete, inefficient and outmoded." Cheers rippled from the galleries, hands clapped in approval.
Whispers turned to murmurs.
The air thickened, sweat pricking skin under collars. Yet Removic stood immovable, his silence a fortress stronger than any rebuttal. Matviyenko locked eyes with him, her gaze as predatory as ever. "Andrei Removic, it's been ages since you graced these halls. Perhaps you have something to share?"
His response emerged measured, a low rumble after endless quiet.
"Memories. Rich with lessons."
He approached the podium, level with her, voice steady but resonant.
Ever huddled in a construction trailer in February's freeze? 30 degrees below, thin mattress on concrete. One battered radio playing static, some grit about Ahmad, leaving for greener fields, dreaming of buying his daughter shoes to spare her taunts at school. Tension coiled. Red lights blinked on cameras. You propose swapping Ahmad for machines efficient, cost-saving pods. But Valentina Ivanovna, you overlook a key detail. No vehicles wait outside for these families. No dignity. And worst of all, no lasting remembrance. So what endures? Matviyenko's fingers tightened on the podium. Knuckles whitening. Did he challenge her resolve? You dread mistakes? I dread voids. Silence engulfed the room, breaths shallow in the stifling heat. Air clung like humid fog, choking. The grand design might erode our nation itself. Economists' spreadsheets don't birth countries, sweat-stained hands, weary hearts, silent tears do. Tears? What aching revelation next? He evoked Sinatra's passing, loved ones lost, parched throats. Her silence broke first. Beautiful rhetoric, but sentimentality breeds stagnation. Building on that charged standoff in the Duma hall, where Andrei Removic's vivid tales of migrant hardships clashed against Valentina Matviyenko's pragmatic tech decrees, slicing through the air like unseen blades, deputies held their breath, cameras whirring like distant heartbeats. Could this unyielding minister sway the chamber, or would icy protocol prevail? Picture the sweat beading on brows, the faint echo of shuffling feet, the stakes mounting breathlessly. Who would crumble under the weight of forgotten dreams turned into heated debate? Tune in close. Removic's voice thundered softly. I don't oppose progress. I oppose discarding souls not programmed into Excel grids. No applause greeted him, yet a seismic shift reverberated, the world felt heavier, more profound. Matviyenko's lips curved faintly, but her eyes flared. Lovely idealism, but time flies. She didn't parry directly, just met his stare. In that gaze lay unspoken fury. Then, from the seats, an elder deputy arose, 50-ish, face etched by eras of turmoil, voice booming like a relic. I admire your passion, Andrei Removic. Channel it into action. Audible nods rippled. True, we debate numbers now, and numbers scorn sentiment. Voices chimed, finances bind everything, we can't indulge fantasies. Yet Removic stood, unflinching, like a lone survivor amid clawing winds. Matviyenko reclaimed her poise, address poised. So, Mr. Removic, you advocate clinging to dependency on foreign labor? Squandering billions automation could save? He advanced, unflappable. Valentina Ivanovna, I don't defend migration. I defend humanity. Debate ignited sharper. A budget committee deputy, porcelain pail and stem, interjected with venomous edge. If humanity reigns supreme, who funds pensions amid cuts? Futures neglected without efficiency? Critics muttered. Removic countered coolly. Money? A mere tool, a frivolous plaything minus purpose. Uncomfortable stirrings. Then he lobbed a bombshell, voice echoing, who decrees the sacrifices of transformation? Not us, the powerless bleed. Matviyenko's smirk vanished. Silence yawned, pregnant with dread. Could this spark real upheaval, or drown in procedural fog? Meanwhile, officials scurried to alert the press, screens lighting up afar. Viewers online surged, trends igniting, live feeds captivating. The hall's vibe morphed, every word now aired globally. What twist awaited as Removic dug deeper? Amid the escalating verbal duel where Removic's defense of the vulnerable pierced Matviyenko's technocratic walls, online tide swelled, streams humming with divided intents, as global eyes judged the fray. Deputies' palms grew clammy, breaths hitching. Would raw humanity reignite national fervor? Or succumb to calculated indifference? Imagine the bitter taste of split-second decisions hanging in the air. Who really shapes a nation's soul, the visionary defender or the unyielding architect? Listen intently. From the edges, a veteran colleague emerged, gravelly tones resonating. Old friend, this path leads backward, do we resurrect forgotten eras? Removic spun, resolute.
No, but we shield tomorrow by honoring today's struggles.
Matviyenko arched, defiance sharpening.
Without system overhauls, we'll crumble, need realism, not reverie. Robots endure no pain, no clamor, no pleas.
Removic's retort cut like honed steel.
Because humans endure, demand, and heal suffering. Her face hardened to stone.
Yet he pressed, they connect, evoke pity when wronged. Whispers accused him of philosophy over policy.
A fresh interruption came, a younger deputy, earnest, voice trembling faintly.
So asks the rookie, if humans vanish to machines, who fosters love? Laughter sputtered nervously, naive, yet piercing.
Removic paused, profound.
Algorithms can't embrace what we lose, soul, economy, essence. Cameras faltered briefly in stunned voids.
Devices buzzed, alert, views swelled to millions, hashtags trending wildly.
Removic's words echoed authentically, stirring dormant echoes. Matviyenko faltered slightly, rhythm disrupted. The minister held silent dominion. What seismic revelation loomed next, poised to shatter all?
As views exploded and hashtags blazed, Removic's poignant question about love's void silenced the chamber, Matviyenko's poise cracking under the avalanche of raw emotion. While deputies' hearts raced against the online scrutiny, air thick with unspoken tension.
Could such vulnerability dismantle ironclad ideologies, or forge unforeseen alliances?
Feel the pulse accelerating, doubts creeping in cool chills.
Who dares expose the heart's true cost in this high-stakes power play? Stay vigilant.
A deputy's tablet beeped softly in the shadows.
Jackpot alert, it read, over 1 million tuning in live. News outlets erupted. Andrei Removic versus Valentina Matviyenko dominated feeds.
Spectators listened not as spectators, but seekers of buried truths. Matviyenko composed herself anew, yet her facade showed strain. The debate's pulse waned. Removic's quiet carried weight.
Then Matviyenko signaled closure. But inwardly, doubt festered.
Across Moscow, in a stately edifice adorned with ornate carvings, Removic retreated to his office.
Desk lamp cast warm glows on an aged map, marked with flags, troop symbols, strategic notes, tangible reminders of a nation's marrow.
In that dimly lit Kremlin-adjacent fortress, as the map whispered stories of duty, the afternoon unfurled unpredictably, advisors and aides scampering like startled insects, poised for impacts none foresaw. The president's unpredictable sway loomed, stripping away certainties, demanding raw adaptations.
Would a single impassioned stand reshape fates, or fade into bureaucratic murmurs? Sense the electric anticipation, spines tingling in unease. Has the stage just been set for revolution, or quiet surrender? News trickled out mere 23 minutes post-showdown.
Defense Secretary clashes with Assembly, epic shift in political sands.
Media quoted his plea, people versus metrics, why prioritize balance now? Phones buzzed worldwide, footage went viral, networks ablaze with fervor.
Though broadcasters stayed mum, digital realms boiled. He wasn't just a minister, he spoke as a paternal guardian, evoking ancestral pangs, reminding without imploring.
Why ponder if words ring true? Users echoed.
Nearby, Valentina Ivanovna Matviyenko sat isolated, 2 teacups before her, one drained, the other untouched, in her immaculate chambers. Only her eyes betrayed moisture, not anger, just quiet sorrow. The folder before her held clipped reactions, first dissenting note in decades, her usual approvals absent. Handshaking faintly, she etched, duty fulfilled, resignation tendered.
Tea cooled, bitter on her tongue.
She lingered, neither conqueror nor vanquished, just reflective, pondering essence over eloquence.
What ultimate sacrifice awaited in silence?
Just moments ago, amidst a heated debate, a viral storm surged through the nation.
Viewers flocked to their screens, hashtags trending wildly, highlighting the clash between human stories and cold statistics. The atmosphere thickened with urgency.
Valentina Matviyenko suddenly found herself cornered, her confidence faltering.
Did profit come at the cost of our very humanity?
Imagine the chilling bite of winter air, each gust like an icy dagger penetrating the skin, as robots marched forward, soulless, emotionless automatons. Andrei Removic stood, silence enveloping him, his presence resonating more profoundly than any booming statistic. In this gripping moment, the air pulsated with tension, like a live wire ready to snap. Deputies sat frozen, the urgency palpable, leaving no one comfortable enough to shift in their seats. Even the guards leaned forward, anticipation etched into their stern faces. If Removic yielded, the landscape of their futures could shift. If he held firm, the repercussions were dark and unknown. Suddenly, Mikhail Dmitrievich Burov took the microphone, an embodiment of hard-earned experience. His voice, raspy yet commanding, carried weight. Emotions falter here. Strategy requires ice-cold precision. The numbers speak volumes. Automating the cabinet of ministries yields an 11% efficiency gain in just 3 years. 11%, an economic miracle, not a distant dream. Removic met his gaze, unwavering, his eyes striking like a tool against steel. Matviyenko swiftly reclaimed the podium, her expression an imperious mask. Her voice, lower than a whisper yet as sharp as a blade, cut through the tension. Russia can no longer indulge in tender emotions. We don't need relics of the past, but bold visionaries. Architects of our fate. Architects? Removic interjected, the word echoing like a thunderclap. But who lays those bricks? You? A gasp rippled through the hall, a tingling sensation running through the crowd as if cold fingers traced their spines. Burov recoiled slightly, whispers swirling like a sudden gust of wind. Removic didn't flinch, this was a clean blow, stark in its brutality. Are the mechanical marvels destined to rob our homeland of its very essence? Picture the acrid tang of machine oil, the overpowering noise of gears drowning out the lamentations of human endeavor. Feel the chilling metal against your skin, promising a future steeped in isolation. Yet, beneath this cold exterior, a flicker of resistance ignited. Matviyenko straightened up, a tempest brewed behind her eyes. Removic, your stance is unmistakable. But we don't live in the stagnant shadows of 1985 anymore. We're in a race. In this world, speed devours the weak. Her words lingered, heavily suspended in the air, ready to shatter whatever remained of their fragile understanding. The Belarusian deputy absorbed this fierce exchange, his silence a fortress against the storm. What brutal confrontation awaits when emotion grapples with cold logic? His steady gaze foreshadowed impending conflict, threatening to obliterate the echoes of hard-won progress. As this charged encounter unfolded, viewers held their breath in anticipation. Realizing that this clash stirred waters too deep to recover from. In a moment that seemed ripped from the pages of a political thriller, the Grand Chamber of Gostom was charged with an electrifying tension. Andrei Removic, the defense minister known for his commanding presence, entered the room with purposeful strides, each step echoing like the countdown to a thunderous storm. The murmurs of the gathered deputies faded into an uneasy silence, as if a spell had been cast. What shocking revelations would he unveil, leaving everyone breathless and microphone-less, locked in a moment of collective uncertainty? Imagine the gripping stillness swallowing the entire assembly whole, where anticipation dripped like rain on a parched earth. Andrei didn't waltz in amidst trumpets and fanfare. No, he simply turned the handle of the door and stepped into the fray. Deputies, scattered in their conversations, abruptly felt the chill of impending upheaval in the air. Sporting a dark suit that mirrored old graffiti, tattered yet striking, he maneuvered through the space with the serenity of a commander surveying an impending battlefield. The stakes soared higher, it was evident from the sharp inflection in his voice, radiating an aura of raw authority. Tension escalated as his gaze fell onto Valentina Ivanovna, a formidable force in her own right, who met his stare with an equally firm countenance. "You've been away from our seats for too long," she challenged, her voice slicing through the silence like a razor. What seismic shifts would this tête-à-tête unleash, a battle of ideologies versus ambition? As he opened his mouth, the room vibrated with anticipation. Have you ever squeezed into a cramped wagon in frigid February? Picture Ahmed, worried about providing for his daughter while the cold gnaws at him. He paused, allowing his words to sink in, igniting flames of empathy within the audience. Yet you propose automation, overlooking that our nation thrives through the sweat and toil of its people. His words ignited the air, prickling the skin and pushing everyone to confront a dark truth. At what cost was progress achieved? What if, in our quest for efficiency, we forgot to be human? Would we really trade love and passion for cold spreadsheets? The air thickened with unspoken tension as the crowd braced itself. The pivotal question loomed large: who wins, and who bears this heavy price? As Valentina's expression morphed from annoyance to gravity, lines were drawn, not just over policies, but in a fierce battle for the soul of the nation itself. Andre's plea tore away layers of bureaucracy, exposing the raw essence of humanity intertwined with political machinations. A hushed silence followed, pregnant with the weight of realization. Here, in this very moment, the fragile balance between idealism and practicality hung in the air. With uncertainty swirling, we find ourselves questioning, what sacrifices must we endure for the sake of progress? The narrative continues to unfold, each heartbeat echoing its potential to redefine not just politics but the very fabric of society. What twists will emerge from this riveting conflict? Buckle up, this story is just beginning.